This student who had just moved to a new class had become the target of the bullies. And in the morning he was full of beatings. I made them go to work to earn money back. Even at night I still had to stay up and plow the game. Life is no different from hell. But they didn't know that they had touched the wrong person. His past was that the old man Huiyong single-handedly weighed the famous Gangnam Gang. Even if he is caught running away, he will immediately take the position of chief. Sadly, no one dares to cough. After serving 2 years in prison, Huiyong decided to start over from the path of education. Unexpectedly entering the wrong violent school just now, he was snatched from the music player by a brown-haired guy, and then trampled on the ground by him like a dog. But he still held back. If I violate my commitment to the principal, I will be kicked out of here. Besides Huiyong, the gentle boy Sung, who was also considered a sandbag by them, and he still had to stay up late at night plowing the game. Even his mother did not dare to stop him. But the next morning, just because of the itching of his eyes, he was punished by the bunch boy in class. You just need to lick all this saliva to show your sincerity, and I will forgive you. The request was so loud that Huiyong couldn't stand it anymore and immediately appeared to stop him. From now on, I'll make you disappear. Take a closer look. Before he could finish the sentence, he was stabbed in the face by the bully and immediately, Huyen, what is unharmed? But the opposite is like becoming a murderer. Just one powerful fist fell down that made him spit out. Despite all the astonishment, the class leader decided to take action. He has learned boxing for 3 years in the movement and is quite professional. But when he gets a punch, he also collapses and inhales the smell of the earth. After dealing with it, Huiyong immediately invited his friend Sung, Hu, to the rooftop to make him think he was running away. Unexpectedly, he had promised all the thugs in the school to wipe out a batch. There are also decent seats up here. Rest assured that you don't need to fight with him anywhere. Just feel free to watch. Before the two of them had time to warm their seats, 5 upperclassmen came to challenge them, including the young-haired guy who still had a muzzle that Huiyong's way of hitting was too alarm. Although he knew in advance, all 5 legs of the baby were given a lie down by him. It seems that the school is general, but nothing special. Different from Huiyong's depressed look. Xiang, who was hesitant at this time, he didn't expect that he would conquer the school in just 30 minutes. What a miracle! At the same time, on the side of the corridor, there was a sound of shaky footsteps, and a straight voice. Are you telling the truth? He is a stubborn senior who continues to ask more questions. He can beat the whole class of you with the South Asians. When High Australia quickly confirmed again. Really? Are they in Dam Luan? They had just moved to the rooftop and saw it. Huiyong didn't. Those who are not afraid but also confidently question. Is here. The senior, who just rolled his eyes and looked over hurriedly, asked, is that guy? But when Hugh just nodded in confirmation, he immediately changed his attitude when he saw the man lying on the ground. Yet he had already defeated the senior Dejin. So the tiger senior couldn't help but feel frustrated and shouted, this crazy guy, Dejin. Huiyong stood up calmly and confidently affirmed, it seems that from now on I will be a big boss. Are there any dissatisfied children? Do you think we'll assign the first rank to a guy who doesn't know what word to get out of? Many ants also bite elephants to death. Even if he wins his senior John Derjean, the 10 best students in the 3rd year who rushed in absolutely couldn't stand it. Dan Dong just rushed forward with a shout. Whip it. Unexpectedly, Huiyong welcomed the war with an extremely calm attitude. Thank you. After you guys are finished, I can relax comfortably. After that, he also deliberately reminded, remember Mr. Hu's car. Step back a little. I'll make sure that he won't be able to scratch his eyelashes in the future. As soon as they rushed over, they took turns receiving extremely powerful punches, which made Qi Xiao just witness his eyebrows furrow. In just a moment, the two of them were face to face. Unexpectedly, Qi Xiao chose to escape in an extremely summary way. Hamburger and Coke. I'm gonna buy it right here. Wait for me. But Huiyong deliberately stopped him. Hey, stop. Come to think of it, I'm 21, and you're 18. Only Mr. Hu's car is on par with me. When Huio stood in front of that decisive attitude, he finally admitted his fault. Yes, I'm sorry. I'll come back right away. Just appeared at the school canteen, when Huio was like a ghost, chase and constantly jostling. Come out. These quails. I'm in a hurry. The male students who had just seen his rash appearance couldn't help but feel curious and talked about it. Kiki Australia Grade 1. Why did he come here in person today? As soon as she approached the seller, Kiki Australia hurriedly made an offer. Hey, 2 large hamburgers and 2 Cokes. Hurry up. Unexpectedly, he received a bewildered attitude from her side. How to have a big or small hamburger? It's all the same. In a panic, Kiki Australia quickly corrected herself. Then among the hamburgers here, give me the biggest one. Anyway, just the best kind is fine. 2. Fast looking. Dajin had just woken up and couldn't stop wondering. I was dreaming, which made Hu Yang rush to smile slightly. It's not a dream, so now you're gray. He was then stunned when he saw the people lying on the ground and asked. The others made Hu Yang deliberately explain further. Your friend. Rest assured that he is not dead. Of course, the first rank is different. Woke up earlier than I thought. Compared to you, coughing up the car on the other side is still a beautiful dream. Dajin still couldn't believe the truth in front of him and tried to emphasize it again. Crazy thing. What is it after all? Unexpectedly, Hu Yong replied with an extremely satisfied attitude. I have to say that I respectfully ask you, what do you want to do? I've never played with troublemakers like these guys before. Fortunately, you can't set an example for them. Sleep more and get up to talk later. Dajin was frightened by that scare, and he lost consciousness at any time, causing Hu Yang to open the gate and wait until he woke up before he could complain. You're awake. This guy. Really? Leave. I'm not even ready. Dajin had now regained his composure and said to himself, I guess it's like before. I have to dodge the blow. I'll dodge the surplus. The rest of the boys had no choice but to follow Hu Yang's request. He sat and slashed in front of them, while continuing to give warnings. If you keep being stubborn, your juniors will have a harder time changing positions. Unexpectedly, Dajin still stubbornly responded. I have a long way to go. Then he continued to sink into a coma from time to time. The Tiger Senior who reported earlier couldn't stand it anymore and hurriedly made a request. Dezen, give up. We're dying. Save me with Dezen. Huyen at this time also deliberately emphasized. Not me. Come on. Are you still on now? After a while, Dezen finally bowed down and apologized. However, Hu Yong still showed dissatisfaction and continued to make requests. It didn't make him panic and ask again. Why did he not want to continue the circle and raise his fist? Mei didn't seem to be sincerely sorry, so Dajin immediately kept his bad feelings and hurriedly proposed. Wait a minute. But the junior who was continuing to howl pitifully, but it still didn't make Hu Yong feel sympathetic, and even continued to urge, come on, again. After a long period of protest, Dajan slammed his head again. Senior, you're wrong. Inside, I'm wrong. Don't sign my head anymore. Hu Yang also began to feel unlucky and decided to lower his voice. Come on, I'll accept it for the time being, so that the rest of the boys who have just heard about it have expressed their appreciation. Thank you. Whatever you do wrong, we will follow it. Please lead us. Unexpectedly, Hu Yong refused to respond, but also seriously ate the anvil. Lead. Afterward, in this Hanyang High School, all kinds of exploitation and bullying are prohibited. Some gangs must be disbanded. Any opinions? In his heart at this time, he was still sure of the sprout. Maybe this is enough for them. Dajin just heard it and expressed his concern. That's very difficult. Breaking the system of order is impossible because it goes against the rules of the union. I'm sorry. This information made Hu Yang roll his eyes in amazement. The alliance made Dajin patiently explain again. In Pukyong High School, Chonggi High School, Zhanggan High School, Geshing High School, and our Hanyang School, these 5 schools have come together into an alliance. After thinking about it for a while, Hu Yang decided to ask again. Zhanggan High School. That school is a famous university exam preparation school in the country, right? There was also bullying there. Standing in front of Dajin's confirmation. Actually, the alliance leader was always there, which made Huyen once again startled. Unexpectedly, I thought that school was only for exemplary students, which made Dajin deliberately emphasize. Actually, most of the students there are really good students. However, there is one, Canon. Huyen still couldn't believe the nickname and continued to exclaim, Uncle. At this time, Dajin is also not afraid to mention that classic name. The other 3 schools have the same level as me, so I can turn them on. But the Canon is in a different stage. Originally, We didn't bother to pay attention to the brave high school girls. But since the appearance of the cannons, actually, it's an alliance. But those schools that include ours are just like the flood under the guise of the crooks. So if we suddenly announced our withdrawal from the alliance, we would definitely leave us. They were like the feudal colonists. We are always oppressive because of them. At this time, Hu Yang also silently realized, everything is more complicated than I thought. Then he hurriedly gave the order again. Tell me carefully about that guy named Cannon. He slid behind Hu Yang's back and slowly continued. He was an 11th grader at Zhanggan High School. His real name is Kang Suksh, but people call him Uncle, because his fist was as powerful as a cannon. Just one bite was enough. In response to Dezen's question, have you tried one of his punches? He hurriedly corrected himself. Yes. No. Last year when Cannon was new to class 10. Then Chung is already on par with our seniors. I just saw its photo in the Alliance's leaderboard. At that time, the boys who witnessed the fight, everyone had to do it, nodding in acknowledgement. Indeed, one punch is fainting. The information about that opponent made Huyen feel extremely excited. It's only 10th grade, but I beat 12th grade with just one punch. It seemed that this kid was quite strong, temporarily qualified, after he tried to hit the center. That is, just deal with the guy named Cannon and it's over, right? Then Dazen suddenly gave other information. That the head of Jiang School is not Canton, but Ionki, the name of the 12th grade. Going from one surprise to another was to make Huyen lose all patience and always question. Why did I hear you say that cannons are the best? And yet, who is stronger than the cannon? The front and back don't match very well, right? Faced with his suspicions, he tried to explain further. The cannon is the strongest, but it's not the boss. This made Hu Yang even more angry and said loudly, I told you to explain it in a way that is concise and easy to understand. Dajin could only tremble at this time and continued to speak. Actually, Yamkite is just a chicken, but his house was in business and very rich. But the cannon's father was also working as a private driver for Iamkite's father. The cannon's house also had a lot of money from Iamkite's father, so he didn't dare to bounce back. It's just a slave there is. It's just power. Hearing this, Hu Yang expressed his frustration. I don't like that kind of thing at all. Dae-jin finally decided to summarize the main idea. Anyway, that's the case. So we can't leave the alliance on our own. And the guy, Orang, and the other friend, I'm gonna put him in the top ranking in year 2 and make sure no one can touch him. After all, having you here probably won't be my turn to speak. Unexpectedly, his words made Hu Yong respond with an extremely aggressive attitude. What is the bastard who started calling my friend? Standing in front of his fist, Dae-jin was extremely scared and said out loud, I'm sorry, let's see. Hu Yong's silence made him wonder silently. What do you think sounds so tense? Unexpectedly, Hu Yong made a quick conclusion. Really, that's it for today. Call them all out here. I told you to call all the Alliance kids out here. Well, his proposal made Dajin dumbfounded for a moment. Why is this all of a sudden? When Hugh was suffering the punishment, he also spoke up boldly. It seemed that he was explaining the change of regime at his school, which must have made Huyen express his frustration when he heard it. Are you stupid? The problem here is the alliance, right? Then it's okay to abolish the alliance. Dajin quickly spoke up to advise. Big brother, in addition to us, there are 4 more schools. The kids in this school look like that, but they are very corny. Only about 50 children can do business. In the alliance alone, there are more than 100 of them. There are also 3 children who are on par with me. Even if the cannon doesn't go into battle, it's very difficult. Unexpectedly, Hu Yang frankly made a comment. Something terrible about you. You're the weakest. Although he was a little scared, Dejan still tried to explain. He was right. First of all, the difference in numbers. The amount is huge. With most of the members being beaten by him, there was a bit of a left. Unexpectedly, Huyen made an eloquent statement. Who needs you to fight? I'm enough. This made him determined to ask again. I mean, from the cannon to the allies. Are you going to deal with it all yourself? Hu Yang nodded in confirmation without hesitation. You're not so stupid either. His intention immediately caused Mr. Hu to intervene. Hu Yang, it's dangerous. You don't need to go that far. Still, he decided to keep his point of view. Then, I haven't tried it. How can I know? I've made up my mind. I'll do it. Send a message to the allies, telling them to disband permanently from today. If you are dissatisfied, at 7 o'clock tonight, is there a quiet place around here that is suitable for fighting? At this time, Dejin remembered that the empty land behind the mountain was very quiet in the evening, and there was no one passing by. After arranging everything, Hu Yang confidently affirmed that he would disband the alliance permanently from today. Anyone who has any dissatisfaction can go to the vacant lot behind Hanyang High School at 7 o'clock tonight. Told them to say that. But Dajin still decided to follow and advise. Brother, or is there something you have thought about? He didn't even have time to speak. Did he hear the warning from Hui's side? His eyebrows itched again, while Dajin was still stubbornly expressing his sincerity. I say that because I'm really worried about you. He was harshly ignored by random words. Nothing has been in class yet. Let's send Mr. Hu away. It's time. Before leaving, he didn't, forgetting to remind again. At 7 o'clock I arrived at the ground without anyone. Then tomorrow you will all go to the altar. Do you understand? Let's go. After completing that cross punishment, the boys immediately sank into a sense of panic. That fierce senior is still there. Don't forget to ask. How could this make Dajin also shake his head helplessly? What else? Just listen to him, right? Standing at the suggestion of the boy who was standing opposite. Or hide. Dajin hurriedly issued a warning. He found out that you were determined to be in the hospital for a few months. Maybe tomorrow you haven't had time to step into the school gate and are already asleep. Just by explaining to the alliance. We were forced. That's fine. That crazy temple can't win. I will trust Iamkite. Just a moment later, Iamkite was startled and panicked when he read the message. What is this? What does it mean? The boy who was talking about it also made a judgment. John Darzan seemed to have a temper tantrum, which made Kite look approving. Have I asked him if he has listened to him in the past time? I heard that it was a bit troublesome, but not so much like this. Are you going to send the cannon? After he patiently read the message with the content. Dissolve the alliance permanently from today. If you have any dissatisfaction, go to the land behind Hanyang High School at 7 o'clock tonight. OM Kite was quick to make his own inferences, sending a cannon to try to win Chan Daejin. It was wasted. Our school does not need to participate. Tell Seong Ho, Johan, and Eon Il that they know their own way, and double taxes on the Hanyang until the summer holidays. At this time, it was already late in the afternoon. The boys also took turns gradually moving towards the supporting land. While moving, Jong Yong Tuin, the number 1 of John Hu High School, was constantly whining. Why do I have to do this? The male student in the back immediately hurried Chen and, just bear it. Suddenly, they were able to move to the rendezvous point. Daejin, who was waiting, waved Hu's hand to ask. It's here. Jun Seong Ho, number 1 of Guseong High School, was also present at the right time. Back kissed number 1 of Bukai High School. He rolled his eyes and looked around and lamented. What location is so far away? The printed line that I heard showed warmth. I don't stay at home to watch the news. I don't know what to do here. Jargon bastards. They sent us like a door. Mr. Xa coughed and then also reminded. 10th graders. I say it again. As long as the cannon graduates, they will leave. Remember? The boys in the back also continued to be in unison. Yes, we would like to remember. Zohun then showed curiosity again. But why is Dejin even crazier today compared to Zhanggan's guys? Is it disillusioned or something? Even so, Mr. Ho still fell. Determination. I don't know. Even if I'm not in a good mood, I have to give him a lifetime of remembrance. At the same time, Ianin asked why the Hanyang hadn't arrived yet. This was indeed the land behind the mountain. But only a second later they heard the announcement. Hanyang's high school has arrived, and Hu Ian is waving with a palanquin attitude. Sorry came here for the first time, so it's a bit lost. Duhun also asked at this time. The guy who made Hu Yang just hear this was furious. Then he replied confidently. I looked at the uniform and didn't see it. The Hanyang people. Leave the others alone. I'm enough to receive you. Hu Yang's eloquent words made them feel depressed. Trouble peeing. Get out of the way and call Dae-jin out here. We're very busy. Unexpectedly, their offer was coldly rejected. It didn't have any effect at all, so I'll let him go. I weigh everything. Mr. Ho just heard this and expressed his indignation. Dae-jin is not strict at all. because the kiss at this time also seemed to have lost all patience and urged, "Call it." He hurriedly followed and eagerly continued, "Listen to the phone." Seeing their current appearance, Hu Yong deliberately emphasized again, "I told her that she was suckling at home now. Calling it is useless. And who is the great uncle? Maybe he has to come." His arrogance made Du-hun also wonder what was going on. Hui Hong didn't stop there. When he always spoke loudly, "Didn't you hear your father ask, 'Who is the canon?'" He couldn't hear it anymore, but hurriedly ordered the juniors to have this guy alone. But it was really noisy. "Lock its mouth." A bare-headed man who did not know the weight of the bear rushed forward. With mocking words, "You look old. But this is because you took it yourself. So don't blame me. I will escort you to the alliance so that you can kneel down and apologize." But he only received a challenging sentence. However, the bare-headed man had just rushed over, and he picked up a punch from the side of the bee and fell to the ground. One shot knocked down the opponent, making the onlookers also roll their eyes in amazement. Then Hu Yong deliberately emphasized again, "But what are you sorry for? It seems that I don't need to apologize." "Saw? Didn't you go up?" Du-hun, after calming down again, had a smile on his lips. Quite second. Mr. Ho couldn't be silent anymore, but hurriedly gave an order. "You don't stand still. Your eyebrows are also not the second type. But the guy you just hit is just the youngest brother a little behind me. Your life is over here. I'll break at least 3 of your bones." Hu Yong was still focused on the main issue. "I've asked a little too much today. Who is Dabi?" But Seong Ho still decided to study the war. "There is your big brother here." After a period of fighting, Hu Yong asked curiously, "It's not you, Seong Ho. Then you have to accept the ending. Bitter to fall on the ground with mangoes?" Yong-in still couldn't believe his eyes and exclaimed, "Something. If you cough and eat a punch, you will faint." Zohun also felt extremely curious at this time. What kind of guy is he? Is there such a guy in Hanyang? Hu Yong decided to emphasize it again. "Why didn't any of them answer me? I heard that among you, the canon is the strongest. I'll ask again. Who is canon?" Zohun quickly made an affirmation. "It wasn't here. Because the enemy was only a level 3 Hanyang. So there was no need for a canon to come out in front of his question." "Also, what are you?" He immediately made an eloquent statement. "We are 3 high schools. The rest, the heads." Hu Yong was not a little at this time, afraid to give an answer. Din is a group of young scumbags. It made them feel extremely indignant and showed an aggressive look. Unexpectedly, Hu Yong confidently said goodbye. "Come on. You guys say, let's come here today. Tomorrow on time to come back. When you go, remember to carry the cannon with you. I'll go first. Bye-bye." Du-hun naturally couldn't stop the AI and shouted, "Where do you think you're going?" He quickly responded with a snarky sentence. Returning home. It made him even more angry. This guy is a real blow. "Hey, all of you guys beat that guy for me. If we can't deal with them, we will have to listen to the curse again." The juniors who had just heard it respectfully accepted the order. Clear. Hu Yong also carefully calculated the number of enemies. 70. Not about 80. This range is also a bit tense. Copper. After destroying quite a few juniors, he also showed a decisive attitude. "I guess I don't need to hold back anymore. You have to try to survive. You know." Hyun's arrogant attitude made them feel astonished. "This guy is crazy. You don't have a crooked crest." But just saw the juniors being defeated one after another. It made the seniors frown. Hyun then made another clear statement. If he wants to surrender, he will go out there and put his head upside down on the ground. "I'll spare you." But Ian couldn't bear it. "I couldn't help but continue to shout at you on the number board." But soon suffered the same fate as the rest. Having just finished dealing with another good junior, who Ian continued to show his authority. "Really, you have to listen to the big brother." The rest of the people didn't even know how to distinguish between heavy and light, but they rushed forward in unison. But it was just a tool to take powerful blows from Hu Ian's side, because Hun was standing on the sidelines. He also had to nod in acknowledgement. "It's terrible. I know why Dae-jin didn't come." Yeon-in is also quick to make a comment that maybe it's stronger than the cannon guy, causing Dae-jin to make a rebuttal. Fortunately, the cannon hasn't used its full strength yet. But even then, that crazy guy was really disgusting. No different from a beast. If it is left like that, it will destroy our army. What time? In response to his question, Yeon-in immediately asked, Make a suggestion. We also have to enter the battle. Du-hun seemed to have followed the original color of the question. Do you go first or do I go first? After thinking for a while, Yongin expressed his concern again. Just one child is not okay. It's a little hurting on my self-esteem, but he's stronger than me and you. So, the two of them stepped up and dealt with it in one blow. Du-hun also showed up at this time. Extremely excited. Okay, I'm worried about the left. When Yongin heard this, he also took the initiative to continue. Then I'm on the right. The two representatives of the two strongest schools in the alliance rushed up and couldn't stop breathing. Get out. Let us take care of it. Their burst of water made Hu Yang stop for a moment. The muzzled gypsies no longer beat the riot council, but washed it all out to make way for the two big men to make way for Hu Yang. Shouting this, the standard amount of rice my mother cooked. Hu Yang asked for permission to smile half-heartedly. He thought to himself that these guys started playing the council from the left and right. Of course, the leaders were still different from the Laola, but he still asked for his age. The two big guys hit each other in a row, but they still couldn't touch a single hair of Hu Yong because he was already a bunch of them. Hu Yong jumped upwards in front of their astonished eyes. It was too heavenly and earthy. It was too full. Hu Yong glanced at him, using an extremely powerful aerial spinning technique that was enough to knock out both of them. I thought it was a good tactical game, but it turned out that it was still a blow in place. Hu Yong landed well, but he was alone, so it was still a bit difficult to deal with these troops. They were still too many, afraid to take action. He turned around and told the rest of the boys that, as you can see, your three big guys have already gone to sell salt, to see if there are any loyal guys. Those who want to go to the altar to see the naked chickens just rush in here. He told me to list, specifically the coffin. I will give him a ticket to the orthopedic dentistry hospital. And he is also covered by permanent disability. If you don't want to, as I said earlier, go out and plant banana trees and spin a few times. If that's the case, then you'll be back safe in your parents' arms tonight. Then tomorrow when you go to school, you can laugh and joke with your friends and tell them that yesterday you almost saw God speak Vietnamese. And because you have bullied your lover, from now on, it is forbidden to rob money or cars to tell others. I won't spare such bastard actions. Choosing to go quickly is not to shroud the whole flood. The muzzled gypsies must have naturally found the male protagonist too humane, so they were not used to it. Or it was also because they were afraid of being punched and lying on the spot, so they didn't dare to cough at first. Hu Yang gradually straightened his face, adding that I can send all of you back to your grandparents at the same time. It's just a matter of making the fairy bear the burden on his back. I just heard that there was a man who had a heart attack so much that he collapsed. And then the others gave up one after another, choosing to put their heads on their own instead of sticking their heads in and smell the earth. Hu Yang immediately said, "It's also the same time." The last one like this asked himself, and then got up 5 minutes later. And I went first. Oh yes, the other three guys told them to bring the cannon here tomorrow. The whole group of people were now as good as dogs, and they all said yes to Hu Yang at the same time. It was already dark, and Hu Yang went down the mountain alone. This should be enough today. Suddenly, his phone vibrated again. Hu Yang pulled out his phone from his pants pocket to look at it, and then secretly exclaimed in a disgusted voice, "There's still one more guy." It turned out to be the phone of the old owner of the barbecue restaurant that he usually goes to work. As soon as he saw Hu Yang coming, Shi Lao wrote for a guy to swipe his face in time. What is this bastard doing to carry the body now? I just started working, but I was already 2 days late. Or should I call Yang Hun and tell him to teach you again? And why can't I call Song Hu anymore? Do you know that I'm always busy seeing my great-grandmother? In the face of the continuous verbal words, Hu Yang still kept a contemptuous attitude, looking at the boss like, I want to say, hey, you pretend you do. My owner has been a bit long ago. He was bored forever. So he turned to Lao Bao to get frustrated. Stop working. The army lost teaching. You guys think work is a joke. He hadn't noticed the convex beginning to appear on Hu Yang's face. And now he no longer had to put up with any of his fathers and sons. So he immediately responded. Of course it was a joke. The boss saw that he suddenly wanted to turn on today. So he cursed even more aggressively. What the hell is your name? Fortunately you say no to anyone. Hu Yang is also not the type to stare warily. Who is the pants? What if I say no? He was curious why Mr. Hu's car didn't come. Right? Let me tell you. Because I told him myself. Stop him. The boss sprayed glue. Stiff. Start the fight and stutter. What? Who do you think you are, that kind of neck? Hugh Yong still maintains a very sober and handsome attitude. Who am I? Now I'll show you. Follow me. After speaking, he turned away in front of his uncle's cruelty. He began to run out of patience and said, just follow me. Don't have an opinion. If you don't want customers to see the bloodshed. This sentence has the meaning of meeting at the school gate. But the uncle is too subjective. And the main result is that he is covered with onions and no longer dares to be honored. Hu Yang asked to look at him. I was rolling on the ground with my stomach and said, don't pretend. Get up. I haven't done anything strong yet. The uncle now knew what a festival was, and asked stubbornly, why did you do that? Hu Yang couldn't stand this innocent look of countless sins. So he immediately let out a sigh and then continued to apply onions directly. Don't you know? Of course. I don't know. The people I beat all have a reason. And if I don't know the reason, I will be beaten even more. Hu Yang stepped on his lower leg. The master made him cry out majestically. He asked again, you really don't know. So I have to beat you until I know. Because he was in so much pain. He had to scream. I know. I know. Hu Yang immediately told him to tell him to see how he knew. The boss is now as good as a dog. And he replies, it's because I've looked down on everyone and been arrogant. Hu Yang felt that he was still not funny. With this answer, I should bow down to him and threaten. That's all. So let me help you remember a little more. The boss wanted to pee his pants. Hurriedly stopped his hand and said, I know. It's because of the part-time job. Hu Yang immediately pressed on the wound on his body, causing the owner himself to cry out bitterly. What about the extra work? What about that? Whether you say it bluntly or not. The boss was in so much pain. So I immediately told him how many I had. I knew that the children who worked part-time were victims of school violence. But instead of helping, I was complicit with the bullies to get them to work at the store. The overtime money was also transferred to the bullies. Hu Yang asked indifferently, then why did you do that? Lin received an emotionless answer that the rent for those victims would be cheaper. And no one dared to quit their jobs halfway. After hearing this, Hu Yang closed his hands. Start to be. You're really a kind of garbage that can't be recycled. Doing so is also worthy of being a person. The boss at this time was able to spit out an apology. But Hu Yang didn't easily forgive cruel things. This guy did. He immediately scolded. Don't apologize. Apologizing must be forgiven by the victim to calculate. He immediately pressed his thumb against the boss's collarbone, causing him to cry out majestically, then quickly take the punishment. Hu Yang got up and left his face there and turned his back to leave, not forgetting to say, if you feel wronged, hurry up and report to the police. The police station is right here. From now on, if you continue to do things like this, it will not only be as gentle as today. With all the hard work Mr. Hugh has done so far, please pay the right price for Mr. Hugh's car before tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll visit this place again. When the boss finished listening, he was sweating profusely. I see. I will send immediately. Immediately. After speaking, there was a person of his own like a dog. I was lit up that day. Intentionally. He walked home alone. I thought to myself that I would come here today. Everyone is tired. Then he just blended in with the crowd. It began to rain, and the passersby rushed to find his uncle's place. While Hu Yong still walked quietly in the rain in a close-knit style. He keeps rewarding according to his habit of going to the grocery store to buy things. When Na Yuna heard the doorbell, she followed her habit of saying hello to you, and unexpectedly met Hu Yong all over her body soaking wet. He quietly told her to sell him a bag of medicine as usual. Yuna stood for a few seconds. Hu Yong caught her gaze and wondered, is there something wrong with my face? Yuna pointed at him and reminded him that he was wearing a high school uniform. Hu Yong immediately understood. There was a little troublesome feeling. He just had to strip off his clothes at the restaurant. And now it's okay? However, Yuna still hasn't let go because Hu Yang is still wearing uniform pants. Hu Yang only has to ask for forgiveness from this side. But every pair of pants is also taken off, revealing all the family members. Yuna sighed slightly and took out a bag of pills to pay for him. No need for that. Out of 2.000 pages. Ladies and gentlemen, this kind of disturbing voice made Hu Yang pause. I haven't finished buying it yet. After saying that, Hu Yang went to the stall and took 2 bottles of barley smoothie and placed them on the checkout table. out of 1.000 rolls. He also invited Yuna to drink with him for fun. Yuna stared at the bottle of barley smoothie with a strange look, turned to look at Hu Yang and asked, "Hey, don't you bring a nest? It's raining heavily." Hu Yang replied very innocently, "It's okay." Yuna's son looked at him, probably feeling that this guy had suddenly become so strange that Sideth had been around for a while. Hu Yang walked in the rain and lit a cigarette to take a good breath. But because of the heavy rain, the lighter was turned off every time. Forever I can't turn on the fire. The more I do it, give him more shyness. Force his mouth to scold. Remember a while ago when Hu Yong was still sitting in the stone house eating state rice because of his hard work and good training. He was sent out early by the cadres. The juniors congratulated him. Maybe the big brother is also about to be released from prison. Hu Yong agreed. The rice prepared by his mother had already arrived. And this day finally came. I thought I would have to be in the middle of this. The junior immediately proposed an idea to help his brother reintegrate into the community. After being released from prison, how do you calculate? It seems that you will definitely become the evil master of the whole country. Or please introduce me to outsiders. Hu Yang asked for permission, and the younger brother continued. So are you going to start a business or go to work? Hu Yang breathed and sang for a while. Answer. Those things later. I have to graduate. The junior curiously asked if he wanted to graduate from high school. Hu Yang nodded in confirmation, but the younger brother didn't seem very interested. Are you going to waste 3 years? If you want to graduate, what other way is missing? He is also super smart, so he probably only needs 1 year of study to be more than enough. Hu Yang heard this argument. The banana was too much, so I sat up and analyzed it for my younger brother to understand. First, I dropped out of school in 5th grade 10. So I only have 2 more years to study, not 3 years. Secondly, graduating from high school in a dignified and recognized way is different from graduating completely. At school, I have a lot of things I want to do. I also want to live like a normal person. Juniors are worried to say, living normally sometimes even more tired. The big guy is too special to live a normal life. At that time, Hu Yong used his people's prestigious face to assure, rest assured, I have confidence. With such a firm guarantee, he still couldn't avoid the end of having to fight with the school troops. While smoking deliciously, the cigarette was turned off by the rain. Hu Yong was frustrated in his heart, but he still encountered this scene. It's really hatred for life. Damn, I still have a lot of things I want to do. Even though he had acted on behalf of the heavens to force the thugs to be destroyed, Hu Yang had also broken the promise that he would not fight, and this truce was definitely expelled. Hu Yang still angrily threw the uniform into the yard. He couldn't help but feel regret in his heart. I thought I could do well. The next morning, Hu Yang still couldn't escape the situation of being invited to the principal's office to drink tea, because of the sin of fighting each other in the school. And when the thugs have been rampant for so many years, no one has come forward to intervene. Just arrived. The teacher assembled a smooth applause like a super court. Although I knew you wouldn't be obedient to school, I didn't expect you to cause such a big disaster. Hu Yang just stumbled at the end of his head and didn't answer. The teacher can continue to scold. Around tomorrow or the other day, all of his withdrawal procedures will be completed. Okay. Hu Yang just replied, yes, I understand. The teacher saw that he accepted easily. It's that easy. But suddenly there is a bit of fake pity. If you act like this, why did you decide to go back to school? Do you want to destroy the healthy environment in this school? Or do you want to seduce innocent children and turn them into bastards like you? The teacher gave him an avocado, and the teacher got up angrily and slammed the table, not knowing how to open his mouth and answer. Hu Yang at this time, I've been holding back you for a long time. Old man, I was originally going to just walk in silence. But if you ask, I'll say a few words. The first is that the learning environment here is not healthy. Many students who are threatened with assault, robbed of money and then forced to do homework for on have been scolded by teachers before they can speak. Enough! Are you blaming the school now? School is a place where students are still young and immature. Such small things are nowhere to be found. Hearing this tone, Hu Yang immediately knew what kind of person this teacher was. Surely it was not the first time he had heard such an indictment, but he chose to be so calm, indirectly causing the misfortune of countless students. But every time I open my mouth, I tell him that he is very good at home. Hu Yang couldn't bear it, so it must be closed immediately. As a small matter, they shook hands with a restaurant recently to force the victim to work 6 days a week. Do you really think that bullying like this is a trivial matter? The teacher suddenly sprayed hard glue. Hu Yang imitated his attitude and laughed. What is that expression? Don't you know? If you don't know, proves that you are not conscientious. And if you know and still close your eyes, it's miserable. What kind of case does the teacher belong to? Heartless or bastard? When the teacher heard that, he jumped up and down. Speak carefully. You're still younger than me. What do you know about education? Hu Yang looked at him blankly. Just now, he told me to open my mouth to speak. But now he told me to be careful with what he said. He took it slowly. I still had a few words to say. In the eyes of the teachers, I may be a bastard who can't be reimbursed. But please ask the students once. Try to ask your innocent students as well. I eliminated the bad elements of the 4 high schools in just one day. Thus, the life of the students who were bullied was much better. Now they don't need to be afraid of being beaten or robbed of overtime money. Nor do they need to play games all night. Reckless actions such as dripping saliva on the floor and forcing others to lick the saliva have also disappeared. Instead of thinking about changing schools or committing suicide, they now have a truly healthy learning environment. The teacher still didn't know the reason, but scolded him. Dealing with violence is not a good measure at all. Especially the objects that the boys use violence to are older students. Hu Yang also retorted. You know I'm not a good person, and my methods aren't right, but at least things are better now. The resentment reached its peak. Hu Yang gritted his teeth and looked at the heartless person in front of him and questioned. What about you? What did you do? He is a teacher, and he is also the leader of the school. I think he must solve it better than me. So when will there be measures to solve the problem of violence in this school? How long are you going to defend your gentle and innocent students? The teacher was told all the way to deny. Hu Yang took a breath and sang for a while, and then continued. You said that I will not be confirmed to leave school until tomorrow at the earliest, right? So today I am still a student of the school. The teacher asked in confusion. That's right. But what then? Hu Yang clenched his palms. He must have been planning to go to the wharf with the Avengers. Meanwhile, the school. The Revengers began to plot with each other again. What about this? It's okay to have this guy in Hanyang. You can't joke. What should you do now? Yang Kite replied eloquently. What else can you do? Tell the cannon to come to see me now. After Kite said this, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly, secretly expecting a great Innova performance with Hu Yang. The school atmosphere began to gain points due to the appearance of a mysterious factor. Wherever he went, he immediately attracted attention. As soon as he entered the room, he met a respectful person who greeted Kite, and the elder called him. The name Jiang Hu is in the 10th grade, but in this old form like the eldest is Kang Suksh, also known as the famous cannon. One punch is lying on the spot. Kite said with satisfaction. Well, I need you tonight. We're going to Hangjiang High School. The cannon seemed to be a person with a lot of real combat experience, and it was not uncommon to be called up like this for a long time. And when he heard it, he knew that he was going to fertilize someone. The cannon immediately asked, how many of them are there? Kite almost spat out a number, 100. Then laughed and said, -99, laughing a little. The situation is a little strange this time. The cannon felt confused. If there was only one person who also needed me to personally take action. This strange attitude made Kite somewhat dissatisfied. Strange. I didn't expect you to ask that. The cannon seemed to have something awkward. In fact, it was a little difficult. It would be good if you postponed it for a day. Kite is an arrogant person, but of course, he will never accept that his subordinates will not obey him, and immediately raise his voice in a sarcastic voice. Our criticism is big. And you know your opinion. The cannon immediately pointed out the reason. In fact, today is the wedding anniversary of my parents. Kite laughed sarcastically. It turned out to be the wedding anniversary of the driver Kang A. So what? The cannon is as good as a dog and asks for permission. It's been a long time since my family had dinner together. So today, speaking of which, Kite interrupted with a close, sneering voice. You don't want your father to be unemployed on a happy day like today. No, a little. When the cannon heard that, he immediately held back, not daring to ask for anything. Kite touched the comm again. You just finish quickly and come back in time. Why can't it? This sentence further sparked the enthusiasm of the cannon. In Hugh Royer, I'll solve it in a minute. Kaite is as weak as a lotus, but with the advantage of a house on the street that his father makes big. He is always favored. That's what makes a good child. That day after school, Hu Yang ran to the riverbank and sat and drank a few bottles of barley for a while. Based on the number of cans, this is already the 4th can. After drinking to get bored, he began to curse his life again. He quietly pulled out his phone to call his uncle, waited for the other end of the line to pick up the phone, and said, "Allo, is me. No, there's nothing wrong. It's just that I want to call and ask about everyone. How are you doing lately, girl? What's wrong with you? The school is very fun. I just called to inquire." "Really? Yes, yes." Hang up. After hanging up, the words he wanted to say were choked in his throat and couldn't be spoken. "Brother Huyong, you are really an idiot. Words to say, words to be said. You can't say a word." Huyong looked up at the sunset, the river, and said to himself, "Is it so late? Okay. Complete the last task as a student of Hanyang High School. I drank a little too much." Mr. Lean packed up his things and got up to prepare to leave. Put it aside. After all, the opponent was just a few boys. Hu Yang carried a pair of double prizes and went to the challenge point again. That afternoon, Yam Kit's wing mill had also gathered enough to prepare for a duel to the number. Yam Kit led the cannon over and greeted him. "Lu Fei, have you waited a long time?" Zhang Yongin, North Jiohun, and Jun Seong Ho were standing there waiting and said, "Come on." The 3 of them are all bandaged with their faces covered. A sign of a merciless session of being overwhelmed with onions. He hugged Kite and looked at him, not believing his eyes. "Oh, so heavenly and earthy. It's true that the 3 of you were pounded like soy sauce?" The 3 embarrassed juniors looked horizontally and didn't know how to explain. "Yes. Can I apologize? Mr. Ho has already been beaten instead of rice. But he was also scolded. So it was very spicy. Secretly scolding Kite for being a cheap guy. Without a cannon. You only have a cannon. Kite is always a pimple. It's been a long time since you guys were like this. Right? Right?" He turned around and howled at his accomplices. The juniors behind him immediately responded. "That's right. The only time they ended up like this was when they fought with Dai Bei. These scumbags thought that their stupid minds and limbs had developed. But they didn't expect to punch and fight. It is true that there is no water to feed them." He coughed bitterly like biting a chili, and there was a smile on his face. "But my brother's life was never good." Yam Kit had noticed the signs of the bulge on his face, so he immediately said, "Look, your car. Cough. What does that feel? The one is down." The car, he coughed in surprise as Kit approached, and he twisted his nose for a sharp pain as if to warn him of the crime of recklessness. "Let's laugh. If there is a lot of laughter, it is still lucky to come there, right? If you continue to live like this, you will only live at the bottom of society for the rest of your life. And if you laugh, you will be happy." The juniors looked at his appearance. The bumblebee cart is leaning across. "I know. I'm going to laugh." When T laughed and said, "Is Thea more beautiful?" Jiang Yongin was so angry that he only dared to scold in his heart. "This flag reminds you of your father's face. Your father swears that once the cannon guy comes out of school, I'll show you what a festival is." Kite looked around and asked, "But why hasn't that Hanyang flag boy arrived yet? Have you run away?" Jiang Yongin pointed to the back and said, "That, it's coming." Specifically, before the fight, Hu Yang had accidentally drunk too many barley smoothies, so he was lying down to sleep on the stone chair. The whole group of gypsies stared at the wheezing name and stood in the picture for a few seconds. "Who will let me brain? What kind of situation is that?" Jiang Yang immediately said that he drank a little too much, so he slept a little. Kite shocked the whole school. "Drank a lot? Are you kidding me? And those women? Can you let the enemy sleep upright like that?" Jiang Iong-in, kissing and bowing his head obediently like a dog. "We know, but even if it's sleeping, we're not confident that we'll win against it." Kite boiled his blood and wanted to scatter all 3 of these extremely bad juniors. "The predators. You have 3 of them. I've been too permissive lately, haven't I?" Jiang Yongin hugged his face and was angry, the kind that hadn't been eaten and beaten, so it was right to have a big neck and mouth. The cacophony of the muzzled gypsies woke up Hu Yang, who was sleeping soundly. He got up and said, "Whether the lame pants hold their beaks or not." The whole group of glue sprays kept looking at Hu Yang. And at that time he was sober up and asked, "Is there a new person? You guys are gutsy blankets, right? Sorry, my condition is not good. So I was gonna drink a little. But I ended up drinking a little too much. Oh my belly." Hu Yong stood up and looked at the other brothers and sisters with half an eye. "Which of you is canon?" But he couldn't help asking. After all, you guys have come all the way here. How can there be no canon in there? The whole group rushed up. "Hurry up." This attitude of looking at the sky with a swing made Yang Kite stand up. This guy was poisoned, so he was refreshed. This tattered bastard. Just when Kite was about to fight the humus first. Suddenly the uncle spoke in a voice like an echo from the land of his grandparents. "Let me get rid of it first, and then I can talk to him later." In an instant, Kite was stunned. It took a few seconds for his brain to catch up with the situation and teach him a lesson. The canon began to roll up his sleeves and prepare to go to work. Hu Yong evaluated for a while. Fortunately, the canon is beautiful. The canon is also a person who screams arrogantly. He has not yet hit the front, because he has a personal matter. "I will end it quickly. Don't be too afraid." Hu Yong also replied helplessly. It's the same thing. I'm also trying to win quickly. My stomach is already throbbing." The canon immediately threw the opening punch for the battle to this point. Hu Yong with his divine speed was able to dodge the opponent's surprise gently. The canon was previously famous for its one-punch move, which was a shroud, but he did not expect to be counterattacked at times. Hu Yong took advantage of the opponent's loophole and immediately counterattacked the propaganda line, but the canon still stood tall, like an owl. The punch just now was the nose that burned the cement column. Hu Yong was surprised. What is this? Its strength is not commensurate with its age. Such a fatal punch. Not only that, but the canon didn't even bother to take one. It was indeed no different from just punching a rock. Hu Yong shook his head in disbelief. Punched like that, but he still could bear it? Canon's ability to withstand blows surprised him a little. Who doesn't care about this? After one of his punches, the canon was still unharmed. Hu Yong wondered, right? After all, he chose one of his punches, but he could block it, even if it was at that distance. He was completely different from the guys he had fought with so far, because Hun and Yang Yin were constantly rubbing on the side. He was crazy. He didn't expect that he could also withstand the blow just now. Those two guys were really monsters. And with this situation, Xianggo couldn't predict the outcome. Yang Hun angrily scolded Dabi. He scolded loudly. "Did you do it kindly?" He said, "You don't want to go home early for dinner with your family." The canon immediately replied, "Yes, I'll try." The canon's words made him confused. Didn't he hit him kindly? I've had a crush on him, but it seems that I still don't know much about him. Dai Bei rushed to attack England with a brutal punch, but all of them were easily dodged by Hu Yong. 2 punches in a row were missed, and in the end, Hu Yong chose the right opportunity and threw a counterattack right into Dabi's abdomen. It seemed that the punch would knock him down, but in a moment he lost his guard. Dai Bei grabbed Hu Yong's body with one hand. He used his strength to lift on high, making a typical slap. Hu Yong was completely restrained by him and could not move. The canon used all his strength to knock him down. Fortunately, with his combat experience, Hu Yong successfully resisted, flipped, dodged, and smashed hard. But the slump also made him roll away several times in a row, and his reaction was a little slow, and he had returned to his grandparents just now. I knew this beforehand. I had drunk less, but it's been a long time since I was able to fight in such a decent way. Confronting the canon reminded him of the bloody cave battles he had experienced. It had been too long since he had fought to the point where he almost died with those bastards. Hu Yong also noticed something different. They were all people who had been trained in hell to survive like me. But the other guy was a little different. The canon did not let him rest for a long time and continued to rush forward. He kicked his foot hard to gain momentum, and then launched the kick towards him without mercy. Hu Yong quickly dodged to the side to avoid escaping. His agility caused the canon to fall backwards. The witnesses around him all rolled their eyes in admiration. It was a long kick. Dodging that owl is not the right type. This time, in return, Hu Yong struck from behind the Great North. Although he didn't go through hell like himself, he was still capable of fighting to this extent. This is purely based on innate instinct. As soon as he approached, Dai Bei swung his hand, and Hu Yong immediately lowered his body to dodge. However, this time you lost because of your massive body. Hu Yong clenched his hands and threw a punch from below. The punch hit Dai Bei's jaw hard, causing him to be separated. Cry out in pain. The cannon collapsed on the spot. The match has only been going on for 5 minutes, and the victory and defeat have been clearly seen. Hu Yong clearly said that you were born with a stronger body than your peers. That's how until now, you completely overwhelm your opponents. This must be the first time you've fought a serious battle like this. And this is also the first time you have lost a war, right? Let me tell you, I'm not easy to eat. The cannon knelt on the ground and had no breath to answer. Yang Hun stubbornly said that you don't believe him. I just smiled and turned to look at them. And you too. When he saw him approaching step by step, Ian Hun cowardly shouted loudly, and the driver of the snail quickly got up immediately. He tried to shout loudly. If it was easy to continue fighting, he said. Huyen looked at the way he pushed the match and was annoyed. Aren't you going to fight me? Don't force your junior to be injured like that. An arrow hit 2 swallows. His words were like telling Ian Hun but also to everyone. His junior. Ian Hun didn't bother to pay attention to the faces of the juniors, but still scolded the most stubbornly. You want your old man to be kicked out, right? Hearing this, he couldn't help but scold this guy for being a coward. At this moment, Hu Ion felt a cold chill on the back of his neck. Intuition made him feel like he dodged a vicious attack from the cannon. The cannon was a little confused after the missed punch, but he still persevered. I'm not done yet. Hu Ion became more vigilant. He was still able to get up after eating a bite of his jaw. It's crazy. Seeing the cannon jump up, Ion kissed more confidently. That's right. The cannon bent down his tall body in front of him. I'm sorry, but his attitude was not pleasant. Sorry for the nose, sit, hurry it up for me. If you lose again this time, you have eaten enough with me. Don't you want to have dinner with your family anymore? The cannon suppressed his anger and replied, I'm going to deal with it right here. Hu Ion silently reevaluated. It seems that I have looked down on him. Or has it been a long time since we fought? So our skills have deteriorated? The two sides continued to rush at each other. Hu Yang exclaimed, this bastard has real punching power. On the occasion of the cannon launch, punch without defense. He slammed his hand hard into his ribs. I guess I can't get rid of him with a brown punch this time. I must stop chanting that spell anymore. Hu Yang took a deep breath. It made the cannon a little confused. From now on, I'm going to punch you continuously until you collapse. After taking his breath, Hu Yang immediately threw dozens of punches in a row. The cannon raised his hands to protect his head. But these rain-like punches made him unbearable for a few minutes to lose his bud cartilage again. The juniors gasped. The cannon has collapsed again. Hu Yang said with a sigh, I don't want to go this far, but you're so monster that there's no other way. The cannon kneeling on the ground kept making a mistake. I showed you his strange expression. What is this? He was still conscious. The cannon always repeats that I absolutely can't lose. In the end, he didn't know where he got his strength from, but suddenly grabbed his neck and lifted it. Hu Yang was squeezed by him and couldn't move. He was crazy. The cannon's hands were like hard pincers holding his neck tightly. Until he was exhausted, the cannon mercilessly knocked him to the ground. Not stopping there, he also continued to swing a big fist. The friendly puncher greeted Hu Yang's face tightly. The whole scene was silent. Only the sound of cannon's breathing could be heard. He took a close look at Hu Yong under his body. After confirming that he had completely fainted, he stood up with peace of mind. The cannon slowly walked towards Yong and kissed. I'm sorry for taking a bit of time. Wyong kissed with a satisfied smile. That's right. How could the cannon lose? If you don't ask me to encourage your spirit, you are far from successful. But unexpectedly, at this time, Hu Yong, who was lying on the ground, sat up with his hands up. It's been a long time since I've fought such a strong opponent. He stood up and commented happily. You're indeed a fierce guy. Let's see. He pointed to Yang Hun and called him to bet a game with me. Yang Hun was suddenly dumbfounded when his name was called. He nodded slightly. No, you bull-headed. Ian kissed and asked the crazy guy that you were punched in the snail. So why don't you try to buy time? Hu Yang laughed. Am I acting like that? He looked at the cannon and said, in fact, it doesn't matter if this guy agrees or not. Just decide and do as you please. He looked directly into the cannon's eyes. Repeat the offer. If I win, you will go under my obstacle. After you finish this battle, come with me. The cannon coldly replied that your father refused. Hu Yang resisted Hong in disbelief. His refusal. Hey, tell me the truth. Even though you're the other guy's subordinate, you also want to know him very much, right? The canon didn't deny it, but said stay away. I don't need to answer your question. He leaned over to prepare for battle again, and threw away. Yang kissed again suddenly and shouted a pause. Wait a moment. So what if you lose so much? What do you say about singing? You have to be extreme something, right? Hu Yang put his hand in his pants pocket and soaked it deeply. What the hell is it now? Oh yes, if I lose, I'll be your henchman. Throughout his life, he confidently spoke the conditions. For the rest of your life. Do you dare to swear? Ian Hun was almost infected. He immediately affirmed that it was natural. Ian Hun thought about it. Very few people can fight to this extent with cannon. If even that guy comes under my side, I'm afraid of any other guy's father. Although I believe that the cannon can't lose. But if I lose, what will happen? What did I swear about letting the cannon follow him? There is nothing wrong with any calculation. Ian Hun came forward and patted the cannon on the shoulder and asked, Sir, are you confident? The cannon replied clearly that I would win. Even if I have to fight to death, I will win. Ian Hun was quite reassured. So he smiled and told him to close the candy. Hu Yang slowly took off his coat. Hu was booming. He did it for you. He and the cannon confronted each other again. This time it was a completely serious fight. He reiterated the matter of betting. So I promise. Oh, I guess I should thank you too. Thanks to you for a punch. I'm sober from alcohol. Hu Yang turned his wrist to start up. So to thank you, I'll smash you to the ground. The mighty cannon came forward and answered without hesitation. Not afraid. Hu Yang nodded and said, Then, you shrunk to take the momentum. I'm going to fight. He quickly took a preemptive strike first. Under his pressure, Yang Hun also realized that the cannon was completely passive and unable to keep up. That guy didn't brag at all. He was even faster than the previous three. A punch from Hu Yang struck the middle of the cannon's abdomen. But you don't stop, but continue to add one more blow, right? One more shot. The vicious fist deflected the whole face of the cannon. He almost wanted to collapse, but his consciousness pulled him back. The cannon raised his hand to protect the sign on both sides of his head. He moved too fast. I haven't even hit a shot. I have to defend more closely. While defending and seizing the moment of counterattack, Hu Yang pursed his lips and watched the cannon change his fighting posture. I know what you're thinking. This time, he didn't use his fists, but suddenly threw a kick to Cantaloupe's leg. He couldn't defend himself, so he could only grit his teeth and endure the pain. Even if you try to defend yourself, there are still many loopholes. Next was a very fast and powerful foot kick by Hu Yang. The Yang Hun couldn't see it, but shouted, Your ancestor saved it. Let it be wild. Fight back. You idiot. When the juniors saw this, they pursed their lips and scolded in their hearts. This guy is really stupid. At this time, he was still able to keep his mouth open. And beside Daibei, he was completely forced to passively take the blow. He gritted his teeth patiently. As long as he endured, I have to suffer. I have to suffer. I'm the best at taking pain. I've been doing that all my life. There's nothing I can't do. Try to endure. Grit your teeth and wait for the opportunity. And then the opportunity will come. Despite trying to tell himself so constantly, Cannons began to feel dizzy and about to faint. He shook his whole body trying to dodge a dangerous kick from Huyong. But then he also received a powerful punch from him. Cannons hugged their own hips. This time it was really too painful for him to cross one leg to the ground. Aang Hun held his head in fear, and the juniors also jumped up. You asked the cannon in pain, right? That blow was called liversot, and until now, no one had been able to survive it. The cannon propped its hands on the ground and breathed rapidly. Just endured. He gritted his teeth and told himself that he just needed to endure a little more. Unexpectedly, he really used his own psychological suggestion to regain his attacking power. And the cannon used his old powerful move to pick up Huyong. With the physical force of the cannon and him, Huyong couldn't struggle to escape. Cannon's eyes flashed. The opportunity would come. He decisively tore the net and hit his whole body to the ground. Yang kissed and waved his hand loudly to cheer. Yes, then go up. Finish it off. The cannon raised one hand and prepared to hit Huyong's head. He used his whole body to fix him on the ground. I can't fight anymore, so I have to finish in this one blow. Hu Yang raised his hands to protect his head, not expecting that he would be able to counterattack after that blow. This bastard is much crazier than I thought. But that's why I want him even more. He had an incredible ability to take blows. At this moment, he quickly grabbed the wrist of the great uncle. His legs escaped and slipped onto his neck. A strangulation was performed by Hu Yang in a lying position. If so, there is only a little way to sleep. The cannon was grabbed by him and he was out of breath. Bear. Try to bear it. Cannon's breath was so red that his whole face was flushed. Just try a little more. Just endure the opportunity, Will. The lack of oxygen caused the cannon to faint very quickly. He completely collapsed on top of Hu Yang. The cannon's entire body was soft and lay on the ground. Hu Yang stood up and wiped the dust off his shirt. It's been a long time since I've had diapers like this. Then, he walked up to Hu Yang and asked coldly, "Will you keep your promise?" He couldn't believe it and tried to call out loudly, "Hey, cannon." The snail sneered and got up quickly. "Slave, you didn't hear the master call." But no matter how hard he tried, the cannon was still lying on the ground without moving. Hu Ion Jingchong came out. Eyebrows. What a wretch. Ion kissed angrily and tied his hands. There was no other way. He turned to the juniors and scolded them and rushed away. "You guys are so numerous." He looked at the motorcycle taxi one after another. Ian In and Johan ordered the three of you guys to rush up as well. However, the juniors were all pretending to be deaf and did not move. Ian kissed and sweated and scolded these guys. This was in his plan. Iang Hun was accustomed to the overbearing habit of rushing to the three sluggish children. He forcefully exerted his physical impact on them and rushed to fight. Cheap bulls are torn. You don't understand human language. When he came to the front of Mr. Xiao, he coughed and punched, but he was caught by him quickly with tears in his eyes. "Are you talking about coughing? What are you doing? Are you crazy?" Iang Hun scolded loudly. The pink head was not only not afraid, but also squeezed his hands tightly, hurting Iang Hun. "I've made up my mind." He asked the juniors, "What about you?" Ione nodded and said that I agreed, because Hun also replied to my opinion. Pink head is instantly happy. "Okay then, first." He fiercely grabbed Iang Hun's wrist. He had to make his eyebrows shut up. He couldn't do anything but scream in pain. Iang Hun's juniors quickly lined up neatly in front of Hu Ion. They bowed 90 degrees at the end and said in unison, "In the name of Buk Se Ong High School, Trong Ghi High School and Chan Hu School, we would like to surrender." Du Hun shouted to please lead us. Yen Hun couldn't believe it. "What the hell? You guys are doing something." Xia Ong coughed vigorously, broke Yen Hun's body upside down and shut him up, standing in front of this group of juniors who suddenly appeared. Hu Yen didn't bother to pay attention to the answer. "Du Hun has made it clear that from now on we swear allegiance to you." And his expression was dangerous. He looked at Ian brother who was restrained next to him and asked him, "Can we teach this bastard for you? I've wanted to fake it for a long time. But of course, if you don't allow it, we absolutely won't touch it." Hu Yang rubbed his grip and pondered. "Let's see. I don't like you guys bullying people who are weaker than me." He smiled and replied, "So it was okay to teach that guy a little. Don't let it die." When the trio heard his permission, the whole person was excited. "Yes, you can rest assured. Thank you very much." He kissed and stammered in fear and said, "Wait a minute." Before he could finish the sentence, he was given a punch due to kissing. The pink head broke his evil knuckles and looked at him being punched and said that it was just a light hit. Hitting it too hard and it would be unhappy, and he had to let it enjoy it slowly. The eyes from the kiss flashed with evil. "That's also true. This guy is the weakest. If he is not careful, he may always rise." Du Hun didn't forget to quickly look at his juniors at his school and ask them what else they were looking at. And he came here to confide in him. The kids were immediately scared to tremble. "Wait, let's show off. It's an alliance." Du Hun angrily say that the Quail Alliance is mine. "But the alliance, these bastards. From now on, I will teach you to be good." Without bothering to say more words, the whole group rushed in and punched immediately. Waited a little longer, didn't fight, sat down and talked calmly. Due to Hun's aggressive kick, these guys didn't pay attention at all. They still dared to stand up. He shouted the devil down immediately. The frightened juniors didn't let out a groan. But all the demons fell to the ground at the same time. Some stubborn people were also beaten by the people of the three schools to obediently obey the devil's words. The pink head let go of his hand to hold the smoked robe. and he immediately fell to the ground. Why did he collapse so quickly? His head was not finished. Aang Hun kept begging for forgiveness. Wait a little. Please wait a little. Mr. Ho hated to wait for the Asian robbery. At this moment, they found out that Aang Hun was too scared to get sick. And he was already in the sky. The whole group of disgust avoided and scattered. Why did I listen to the orders of a scumbag like you all this time? It's really unimaginable. Ian collapsed on the ground, breathing heavily. The dogs. He was embarrassed, so he cried a little. These bastards. The trio angrily asked all the warm water to tears. What the hell are you crying about? As soon as the kiss was for him. One more kick. He spoke up to stop it. Enough. The pink head and the kiss immediately stopped their hands and replied yes, sir. Hu Yang sighed, looking at him crying and runny nose. He suddenly felt sorry for him. He stood from above and looked down. Yang kissed and called him. Yang kissed the old man and scolded the dog. Your father. Take away your whole furnace. And the garbage dumped on you. Just wait. I'll go back and tell my father. My father knows. You guys are going to die. I'll also tell you to get rid of that old scumbag. Hu Yang would like to withdraw all his thoughts of pitiful Ian Hun. Who pays your father so badly? Scare me again. Let's go and see. Ian Hun hugged his arm and stood up and said, My father has a lot of money. He was also acquainted with the police and prosecutors. He shook his head and exclaimed, This guy was saved. Hu Yang simply said to ignore your father. In my turn. My father is the king of blood counting in Gyeonggyo. Do you mean that your father is going to send me to jail or something? Ian kissed and laughed. You know that's good. You guys are going to die. Hu Yang calmly told him again. But if you want to arrest me, you must sentence me to life imprisonment or the death penalty. Brother Tien approached and whispered in his ear. But let me go out. You will cover the grave of the love. There was no joke on his face. After all, I went in once. Again. I don't mind. But then I'll tear your body apart. And then go to jail again. Think about it with your smart head. Who will die first? Ian Hun didn't dare to imagine. With his cowardly nature, he immediately stammered and said sorry. Huyen asked you to apologize to your husband? Am I your friend? He was scared and shouted at the end of his head to apologize to me? Speaking of pointing to the Dabii who is still unconscious on the ground. I said just in case. Don't touch it. From now on, it's mine. Ian Hundab immediately obeyed me. He turned his back and left, and said he understood. And then he said before I changed my mind. He took a step forward. Standing in front of the high schools, he loudly declared himself as the head of the coalition. I convey the first and last command. The alliance was permanently dissolved. And the students who recorded the drama responded in unison. At the end of the day, when they had all dispersed, the whole area of opposition was left with England and Dabii. It took a while for the new Great North start to be dynamic. He tried to stand up with his hand. The sound of Hu Yong sounded happily. Are you awake now? Dai Bei suddenly stopped his head and looked at Ing. Hu Yang said contemptuously, dumbfounded. Why didn't you hit me just now and heard a crackle? The cannon shook his head. It was okay. And then crawled up. Seeing that the opponent seemed to be fine, Hu Yang proposed to fight the second half. Making the opponent stupid, he explained bluntly, you look good too. If you think that the result of the past 3 is due to luck or that I am playing dirty, then I can receive you again. The cannon is silent and does not answer. Just stabs and looks at Hu Yang and counts. In the second and third rounds, I can do as much as you want. Hit until he acknowledged. The cannon replied in a low voice. One time is enough. I admit that you are stronger. Hu Yang sighed lightly. Fortunately, the cannon looked around, and no one saw a figure, so he asked, Where's the senior at my school? Hu Yang replied calmly. Where else? I'm back. The cannon asked in surprise. They just go like that. Especially Yam Kite. Hu Yang smiled lightly. Inform him. Whatever you want to do, just do it. You're free. The cannon recounted Kite's story in somewhat frightened words. He won't ignore it so easily. Om Kite is the one who will take revenge on his opponent to death if he is humiliated. Huyen replied bluntly, just be a little careful. It seemed that the cannon's warning had little effect on him. The cannon was black-faced, and that wild attitude made him begin to be confused. There's nothing I know about him better than you think. Well, of course, you will know better than I do. Hu Yang began to tell the canon about the real person of the bomb-masked Iamkite. I've been observing all this time. He's a bastard and cold-blooded. But just because of you to protect him, he has a weakness that is his family. After removing all the outside help, Iamkite himself was just a weak and frightened bastard. I swear he hasn't done anything yet. But he's already done vinegar. And at this level, he must be at the top of the scumbags. The canon deserves a fever. But with his honest words, he couldn't believe it. Hu Yang frankly replied that he flew to help the canon test the reality. Just believe me and go and scare that guy to see if it will work. More than you think. After speaking, he smiled slightly and prepared to leave. Anyway, I'm here today. The canon was somewhat surprised. And Hu Yang immediately said the reason. Today is your parents' wedding anniversary. Hurry up. The canon listened but asked awkwardly. You just let me go. Really? Hu Yang asked curiously. Otherwise, what are the two bulls standing here? You don't plan to fight the second round. The canon answered him frankly. I've lost from now on. Shouldn't I do what you instruct? Hu Yang listened but wanted to turn his back on him. He didn't think the canon was so serious. The age of a child is rigid. Hu Yang thought about it thoughtfully. After a while, he made a request. I guess this is fine. Go home immediately and wish your parents a happy anniversary, and from tomorrow live your own life so that you don't get stung by a bad guy like young Kite anymore. This strange request immediately received a stunned look from the great uncle. Hu Yang said one more sentence and quickly left. That's my order, so let's go first. The great uncle stood in awe and watched the figure of the person leave. And it was not until he was out of sight that he remembered that he did not have a method of communication. You have to give your phone number. Early the next morning, Hu Yang went to school to meet the homeroom teacher. I'll handle your case. Originally, I was going to follow you, ruthlessly, but the principal told me to switch to quitting school on my own, so I had to follow suit. In the case of dropping out of school, parents will have to go to school with the student. But because Hu Yang is an adult under the law, he can skip that procedure. Hu Yang sneered, defiantly said, I don't like it. The teacher raised his eyebrows and reprimanded him. Auntie, this kid is really... It seems that he doesn't understand very well. Being expelled from school and choosing to drop out of school are two completely different things. This is the school's last concession to him. So be grateful and quit school. This cunning explanation made Hu Yang refuse to listen even more. No one knows. I don't care about expulsion or anything. Just expel me from school now. The teacher began to feel awkward. Hu Yang continued to expose the truth behind the hypocrisy of the demon teachers in this rotten school. Why can't you do it? Because if there are students who are expelled from school, they will transfer the wind to the education department, because it will make a bad impression on parents. The principal told them to leave school quietly so that the whole family could have fun. Hit by the black heart, the teacher stood up angrily and slammed the table. Hu Yang didn't respect her at all, immediately faced the teacher, and then questioned again. Anyway, if you shout, he said he would handle it according to the rules. The school's intention is to ignore a bad student like me now? The teacher shouted at him in warning. Be careful with your words. Your manners are nowhere. I'm an adult. Hu Yang replied softly. The etiquette I always carry with me. But what I say is not rude. The teacher sat helplessly on the chair and lamented. It's true that you can't talk to this guy for more than 3 sentences. Hu Yang replied to him contemptuously. I'm not going to be controlled. Please drop out of school. If you ask politely, maybe I will help you. The teacher shouted in frustration. This guy. Hu Yang hurriedly calmed down his anger. I'm really just kidding, sir. He deliberately emphasized the teacher's words, which made the teacher even more frustrated. But he couldn't do anything else. Hu Yang held the paper on the table, racking his brains to think about how to write now. Write an application to stop studying. Mr. Qi raised his eyes to look up at the respected teacher. Love happily pushed the paper in front of him and asked for help. It's too troublesome. You always write for me. I believe in your quality. He is a literature teacher. But remember to write me some quotes that sound good. Well, this is not a joke. The teacher was so angry that his eyebrows were pale, and his hands were clenched. See, he didn't hold a pen for a long time. Hu Yang continued to speak. Auntie, you write quickly. If you don't write, I can still go to school, right? Hu Yang sneered. He had been deliberately teasing the teacher until now, which made him angry. It's just this humiliation. But now you just treat this as a small gift of mine. Hu Yang walked out of the teaching office and was walking when he suddenly heard someone call his name, so he immediately turned around. It was Mr. Hu's car friend. I can still call you Hu Yang now, right? Hu Yang smiled lightly. Why do you keep asking so much? Mr. Hu apologized to him in a low voice. Hu Yang hurriedly brushed it off. He also apologized all day long. Mr. Hu asked sadly, I heard that you have quit school. Can we meet again? Hu Yang replied comfortably. Even though I quit school, I will still live in Seoul. And if anyone is looking for a job, just go find me. Mr. Hu heard this in his heart. Extremely happy, he recounted everything for Hu Yang. But it probably didn't happen. The atmosphere in the school had changed a lot in the past few days. No one can do their homework without making errands and not having to queue up to buy food. I'm very happy. Mr. Hu smiled happily. Perhaps this was the first time he had ever felt such a comfortable learning environment. While Mr. Hu smiled, Hu Yang also happily reminded him, what happiness. It's a natural thing that he should have received. But I'm still very happy. It's all thanks to you. Hu Yang laughed lightly. That's good. Then he said it. And then he walked away. After taking a few steps, I remembered. Important matter. Hu Yang stopped, turning around to remind Mr. Hu. Later, when you become a comic book artist, remember to show me your first work. Mr. Hu's boss nodded excitedly and agreed immediately. I still don't know how I'm going to draw the story in the future, but I'm sure the main character will be Hyun Woo Young. You're even better than the main character. Woo Young smiled and said hello. It's too honorable. So the protagonist is leaving. He walked out of the school gate, thinking back to what had made him even more frustrated. I'm still angry with the school administrators. Woo Young looked at his stone. As soon as he kicked off the ground, he replied, down someone's feet. He raised his head and looked at people's faces. Gun. Hyun looked from the top of his head down. Chan didn't understand why he was here. Looking at Jiang standing, it didn't seem to be a surprise attack. Dai uncle spoke first. I have to say I'm sorry, but because I don't know the phone number, I have to wait here. Hyun's face was stunned. He didn't understand what's going on. Why haven't you submitted to yesterday's results yet? Whenever you want a rematch, just say I'm ready to receive you. The canon refused. Not really. So what's the matter? I ran away from home. The canon's shocking words made Hu Yang run out of words. And in addition to carrying an additional burden on him, from now on, I have to be responsible for your accommodation. Hu Yang stammered again. To me? Why? The canon replied bluntly. Since you're my boss, if you want me to be your subordinate, you have to be responsible for where to eat. Hiding, right? Hu Yang didn't expect that yesterday's statement would be so loud. Do you believe that's true? He planned to say that the subordinate case was just a joke. But the canon cut him off immediately. Are you going to say it's a joke? I have fulfilled that promise, trusted me and have come this far. So please think carefully. Hu Yang was extremely confused. It was already difficult. And then naturally added. The L is empty. Leaving his mother to meet the young man seriously. He came to be his subordinate without thinking. Hu Yang's dilemma immediately came up with a plan. I'm the boss, so it's okay to tell me anything. The canon nodded resolutely to answer him. Give me orders. Hu Yang said directly. Then here is the order. Go home. Really? Why did you run away from home? Hu Yang's strange request made the canon not believe his ears and had to ask again immediately. Hu Yang repeated. I asked you what the hell did you run away from home to do? The canon was embarrassed to explain that he was interrupted by Hu Yang. Scolding for the discharge. Explain what? Don't make any more. Go home right away. The canon slammed his face. His face was extremely gloomy. A moment of silence appeared between the two of them. Hu Yang stepped forward. He comfort the canon a few sentences. I understand your heart, but now I can't afford to take care of you. After hearing this sentence, the canon absolutely did not answer. It seemed that he had his own answer in his heart. Moving the scene to a low night street crowded with passersby, constantly offering to trade. I can't help but mention Min Kyung-hoon. He is one of the hospitality staff here. Min Kyung-hoon always keeps a warm smile on his lips, but most of his offers are rejected outright. Customers don't even bother to look at one. While posting on the dike, Min Kyung-hoon heard someone call his name to offer rice. Hyuksu makes the fox dirty. Whoever called Hyuksu said it was Min Kyung-hoon. He turned his head and the person standing in front of him happily called out to big brother Hu Young. The two met to celebrate their old age, and then went to a corner to sit and smoke. Hu Yang lit the first cigarette, and when he saw that the junior didn't seem to be about to use it, he couldn't help but be curious. Saw Gai Araya? Chi Hung-hun smiled and replied, "How dare you smoke with the big brother?" Immediately Hu Yang dismissed the guy's hospitality. "This guy stop using it. Don't overdo it. With the permission of the elder." Chi Hung-hun hesitated to agree and then quickly pulled out a cigarette, lit a cigarette, and smoked a puff. The two of them began to talk about everyday things right away. Hu Yan but Shisuka was also 21 years old. So why did he keep using honorifics with me? When he kissed shyly and said the reason. No, I'm the same age as the real big guy. But the big guy is Huin Hu Yang. Hu Yang tilted his head towards Ki Ong-hun and reprimanded the guy a few times. But honestly, he didn't have any regrets. This guy really told me, don't overdo it. Ki Ong-hun didn't see that it was too much. On the contrary, he felt proud to know Hu Yang. Because for me, Huin Hu Yang is a better person than anyone else. He is both a hero and a benefactor to me. Hu Yang squinted his eyes mischievously, blaming his juniors. You just like this. I won't come next time. This half-hearted threat made Ki Ong-hun much more comfortable. For the first time, he dared to call the name of the big brother Huayan. The two of them got rid of the cliché, and the conversation began naturally like two close friends who hadn't seen each other for a long time. I heard that you have been released from prison and are working here. It seems that you have been doing it for a while. Is this job worth doing? Was asked the right itch when Mr. Hun sighed and confided everything to him. It looks very funny to me, isn't it? Even in the mainland, it is inevitable to have a social underlife. Hu Yang heard about this mainland school for the first time, so he was extremely surprised when Mr. Hun immediately explained. Don't you know that this nightclub belongs to the mainland? With this new knowledge, Hu Yang tied his hands and died. I don't even know how to get the ocean or the mainland. Ki Ong-hun hasn't given up on introducing a few more things. This is a busy gathering place. The youngest in Seoul. You must have heard of Chairman Il Chi-hwan's name. With these new names, Huai-hong didn't know anyone. Ki Ong-hun laughed. You didn't update any news. After all, if you do a good job, you will be promoted and transferred to a better facility. I also have my dreams. Hu Yang nodded, faintly replied, stay out there. Ki Ong-hun put away the cigarette pipe and quickly changed the subject. Don't tell me every story. If it were you, you would probably be ranked in an important position. Because you were Hu Yang. Hu Yang hummed for a while, and then hesitated after thinking about it. No, I have a job. I just stopped by to see how he lived. Ki Ong-hun thought about it again. It's true that a person of your caliber can be unemployed. Flattered by Chi Ong-hun to the blue clouds, Hu Yang sulked, started again, but he stood up and said goodbye. I'm leaving. Chi Ong-hun suddenly wanted to hold him for a while. So fast. Don't go drinking with me. A glass now I invite. Hu Yang refused, waving his hand. See you later. Chi Ong-hun looked at Hu Yang's back and didn't know what to say. Transfer the scene to the convenience store where Yuna is working. She just changed shifts with the previous person. The two talked for a while and then went their separate ways. The boy just walked out. Hu Yang pushed the door and walked in. Yuna recognized him after bowing. Hu Yang went straight to the stall. Drink. Choose yourself a can of beer with a bag of food and then go to the checkout counter. Yuna asked carefully, did you get a cigarette? Hu Yang refused. Not today. After that, he went straight to the table and chair in front of him, opened the beer can, and drank from the house. Suddenly, Yuna sat down across from him, which made Hu Yang somewhat surprised. She was in the middle of work. Yuna was smiling, cheerful for herself. Then I just drink cola. With this secret, there were no guests left. Do you have any opinions? Hu Yang continued to take a can of beer to drink, and replied casually, if you don't have any opinions, you can do whatever you like. I also like to do whatever I want. Hu Yang thought for a while. Talk to Yuna. Hey friends, go. How much money can you win by working at a convenience store like this? The person who had the heart to ask her also had the heart to answer honestly. It remains to be seen how many hours a day is worked. How many days a month is worked. Like me, I get 3.200 guns. Hu Yang suddenly exclaimed. A little bit. Yuna was equally surprised. Why do you care? Hu Yang sadly confided the truth to her. I don't want to care either. But the budget is about to be empty. Yuna excitedly opened the invitation. Or you can just do it in the evening. The work is not difficult. And in your free time, you can also take books to study. Hyun refused with a dark reason. There is already work. Yuna didn't know what he was wondering about. He was only in high school, so he was busy all day. That sentence seemed to poke into Hyun's deep pain. Mr. Yut said, I am no longer a high school student. Yuna didn't understand what was happening. Hyun immediately interrupted and continued. If you don't study, you have to make money. He finished the beer can, then got up and left, not forgetting to say hello to his friend Yuna. Anyway, thank you, truck. Happy work. Yuna was holding a can of soft drink while drinking, her face filled with confusion. What kind of bamboo is that? Hu Yang walked on the road while pondering. Normal part-time jobs have a low salary, but I don't want to be involved in gangs to make money now. Tired of the unresolved mess. The phone suddenly rang and cut off all lines. His thoughts. Why is it him? Mr. Hu, what's wrong? Could it be that the pangolins bothered you? These bastards have just finished taking the blow and have already rushed around? Mr. Hu at the other end of the line hurriedly explained. No, it's not like that. Thanks to this, Hu Yang's anger was dispelled. What's the matter? What's wrong with that guy? Then I knew and I came right away. Hu Yang turned off the phone and said to say, Mr. Hu is like that, but he still doesn't know what is happening. On this side, Se-ong who was kidnapped by a group of thugs in the middle of the night. They loudly threatened. What's wrong? He said he would come. Is it long? He said he would come quickly. Dejin rolled his eyes. How fast is it? Mr. Hu's car replied anxiously. As fast as possible. Dejan asked again in a close voice for peace of mind. Are you sure? That's what he said. Dejan could believe it a little now. He turned to look at the cannon and said in fear. You heard it, right? He said he would come as soon as possible. Then let's fall first. Dejan smiled conciliately. It turned out that Dejan had only been a prey to Call Huyong until now. Dajin felt that he was no longer worth taking advantage of, so he wanted to run away as quickly as possible. Even the juniors standing behind him were afraid of Cannon. The Cannon refused Dajin's sincere request. No, wait for him to come. Dajin helplessly obeyed. You can't fall. That's fine. He turned around and asked his juniors for their opinions. Stay a little bit. You guys. In the fierce face of the great uncle, they all agreed immediately. If anyone doesn't hear that you are not intact. The Cannon continued to wait for Captain Hu Yang. Dajin was dissatisfied and cursed in his heart. I don't know what this wrestler did when he came to our school. The Cannon turned his face to explain. Please bother you guys. I have no other choice. So I asked you. Dajin has just been aggressive for so many hours and is as obedient as a puppy suckling his hand. Oh no. Nothing. We don't mind at all. Don't pay attention to you. Just keep busy with your business. Dajin laughed and hid it. Awkwardness in the heart. The Cannon sincerely thanked him and continued to wait. The atmosphere between the three of them at this time was extremely tense. I just wish that Hu Yang would come quickly to get them out of this situation. Never heard of Mr. Hu. Hu Yang's resounding made so many people happy. When Mr. Hu saw that his friend was in a hurry, he rushed to shake hands and congratulate him. And the men were sincere. At the end, he greeted loudly. We greet you. Hu Yang looked at them and shouted. Don't say hello like that. I don't like it. Dajin hurriedly bowed his head to apologize to him. Hu Yang rolled his eyes tightly, immediately understanding the current situation. He sighed and then asked Dajin's group to fall first. Dajin hesitated to turn to ask Cannon. If he did something wrong, his little life would still be lost. Hu Yang said that. I'll go first. The Cannon nodded back. Someone who has already given the order does not need to consult me. Just waiting for that. Dejan smiled contentedly and ran away with his companions, not daring to look back. Hello, let's fall. The flyers. Hu Yang also looked over and told his friend Song Hu to leave quickly. But he refused despite how many times he said that Song Hu insisted on staying. If there is a fight, I will help you. Hu Yang was surprised. Mr. Hu was trembling with fear. But he was resolute. Well, I probably won't be able to help much. But how can I leave alone? We're friends. Those sincere words made Hu Yang unconsciously moved. He said he was going to fight that monster with me. Is he worried about me? This little friend. They have only known each other for a short time. Mr. Hu used to be a pitiful person who was raped and bullied by one person after another. But now he dares to be here and say that he will fight for his friend Hu Yang. It makes people can't help but be happy. Hu Yang smiled happily. It seems normal to everyone. But with Hu Yang alone, this is quite unusual. So it made his friend Seong Hu gasp in surprise. Hu Yang put his hand on his friend's shoulder. Stunned. Having you here is also a great help to me. Thank you, Seong Hu. If you really need something, I'll ask you later. So remember to help me then. But he was assured that he didn't fight at all today. It's just a little talking, right? Hu Yang looked at Big B. The canon nodded. We've been fighting for a long time. Hu Yang said a few more sentences to you. It was okay to feel sour. So he just went first. Hearing the affirmation, the beat was firm. From the canon and Hu Yang, Mr. Hu left with peace of mind at this time. Then you remember to be careful. Hu Yang replied, if you're not careful, no one can eat me. So don't worry. I'll call you later. Mr. Hu refused to leave at this time. Hu Yang approached the canon and sat down next to him. Now it's just the two of us talking. Why did you come to our school? Why did you arrest the Hanyang school and don't let them go back? The canon replied calmly. Only then can I meet you. After the canon explained. Don't get me wrong. I really don't intend to fight those guys. Of course, Hu Yang knew about it. Because if the canon intended to hit people, the Daejin would not be as healthy as before. The canon did this because he didn't have Hu Yang's number, so he had to ask the others to help. Hu Yang was surprised because it was just, ask Mr. Hu for a car and he will know right away because he has his number. The canon said that he also asked the same question. But Mr. Hu's car insisted on not giving it. Although he was very scared. But he was also very brave. This attitude of respect for friendship made the canon give praise to Mr. Hu's car. However, when asked to call Hu Yang directly, Mr. Hu's car still agreed. So there was a meeting like now. Hu Yang couldn't help but say with pride when he heard this. My friend must be like that. Forever in a circle. Hu Yang returned to the main topic of the two. Why do you keep clinging to me? Let's talk about it first. I am not responsible for the place to hide for you. To put it bluntly, I was poor and couldn't support myself. The canon at this time made the truth clear. I didn't listen to you before. But I left, so I can't explain clearly. Hu Yang interrupted in frustration. Because I don't need to listen. The housekeeper and him. You said you would follow my orders, right? But yesterday it was once. Now you've broken the order twice. You know? Or do you want me to repeat the third order? Just go home and live like a normal high school student. But you don't understand. Huyen shouted helplessly. But the canon still spoke softly. I'll explain everything. So don't interrupt me. But listen to me everything. Huyen listened seriously. Both you and I are right. First of all, it was exactly as he said. Kite was a weak and much inferior person to my thoughts. But at the same time he was as stubborn and cruel as I said. Yesterday, thanks to you, I was able to go home in time for my parents' anniversary. But last night, when the whole family of 3 was coming home after enjoying a delicious meal with happiness when the family gathered, suddenly someone came to ask for a confession. Now the driver is stressed that his son has hit the wrong person. Of course, that person was none other than Kite. The appearance of Ki-tae made Se-oche's father quite surprised. So he asked softly, what's wrong with Mr. Kite? Although he asked politely, he needed to scold. Always, even him. Seeing this, Xiao Zhao's father came to visit. Mr. Ki-tae, what's wrong with your face? What's wrong? So Ki-tae hurriedly spat out a pool of saliva and shouted, you're so noisy. I don't have anything to tell you. And then Ki-tae asked the Australian driver to criticize and talk to me a little. However, the expression on the face of the Australian driver now seems to be very angry. Because he was worried. His father turned to his father and asked, what's wrong? Now I look closely and see your face as well. The snail hurriedly interrupted his father's words. It's nothing. Don't worry, father. I go talk for a while. And then go back to my parents. Just go first. This situation immediately made both of them worried. Transfer the scene to the inside of an alley in the city. Snail criticized him like that. But he became silent without saying a word. Immediately, Kite Bastard hit him again and cursed him. You scumbag. First of all, you have to defeat that Hyun Huyong and bring his head back here to me. After that, I'll rebuild the alliance. With all the guards who beat me up today and recruit new soldiers. I don't need to know your qualifications. What are they like? The guy who is most loyal to me will be the number one in this school. I give you the right day. Tomorrow you have to handle everything so that everything is on the right track. However, Zechariah still did not dare to cough up a word. That's why it made Kaite angry. Have I asked clearly? Seeing that he kept holding back, Kaite gave him a warning canvas. Suddenly saw that Siachi had blocked the shot. Hit him back. And Mr. Tan affirmed. Enough. It's enough to come to this country. Then you stop and go. The driver's uncooperative attitude made Kaite angry. You were beaten stupidly. Do you know who your father is? However, the driver still replied firmly. It depends on what you like. But stop everything here. No matter how much I fight, I am not confident that I will defeat that person. Immediately Chite hurriedly suggested. If you don't have the confidence to win it solo, find another way to skewer it and stab it. I don't care what tricks you use. I want him to live rather than die. Seeing that, the driver said confidently, I don't want to hear and I don't want to do those things. That's why Chite shouted in his face. No one cares if you want it or not. The important thing is that I ordered you to do so, and you are just the one who obeys my orders. The snail driver was no longer afraid of him, but insisted on questioning. From now on I have no reason to obey his orders anymore. In the future, when you are in school, you will still be my senior, but I will not follow your orders anymore. Now the person who can give me orders is not you. He himself agreed to this bet. And in the future, if you want to solve anything, you can help yourself. The current situation made Kite angry. Fly the trash can next to it. He laughed as if he had just played his first game. This guy is ready. Suddenly, Kite leaned close to the front of the snail car. Hey, stretch the car and criticize you. Forgot. Thanks to whom? Your family has already eaten? You. Aren't your whole family my slaves? I'm your master. Just one sentence from me. Your family will roar the game. You know, I don't know what those guys are like, but you can't turn me on. Don't be stubborn anymore. Handle everything well. In the face of Kite's threats, which he still insists on. I can't do it. He himself agreed to that extreme fish. The attitude of the driver made him angrier and angrier. You are so stubborn. It will not be good for your family. Your family owes quite a lot, right? Not only do you owe money to the bank, but your family also owes my father a large amount. 10 years. Sometimes your whole life is going to live forever in debt. After all, it's your order from birth to accept it. I'm tired of talking a lot, so let's go. Suddenly, at this time, the car squeaked. My dream. It is to graduate from high school and live a normal civil servant life. Be filial to your parents. Build a home. Live a peaceful and happy life. For others, it may not be a big deal, but it is my dream. That's why I endured. I have endured for a long time. I lowered my head, gritted my teeth to endure him. I threw away my self-esteem, did things I didn't want to hurt innocent people. But now I understand that as long as there are you, that dream of mine cannot come true. When Tay listened, he still looked calm, knowing that it was good. Now you understand. But to let him fill up all the snails that cut through. My little wish for my simple future. Now I'm going to give it all up. And in exchange only once. I'm going to shoot your ass. It was his answer that immediately made Kite look at him in awe, without allowing him to react. The snail struck him with a fatal blow. The blow was so strong that Kite wanted to stop breathing. Kite was thrown away without being able to stand up. And then Snail criticized. Stood up. I still have a lot of things to confide in. In this moment he stepped on Kite's head. Don't make the corpse rise again. I've given up everything. In exchange for your life. In less than 2 punches. You've been unfair to me, right? The snail hurriedly grabbed his hair and pulled it up, and then went into a position to prepare to teach Kite a life lesson. At this point, he suddenly called out, sneered, don't make any more shots. I'm going to die. In front of his pleading attitude, he thought to himself, in appearance, his like this may be added. Another blow will die unpredictably. Is he worthy of being a murderer? So in a moment, the car spared him a life. He sighed and said I was leaving. Home and living alone. That means that from now on, I will no longer have anything to do with my family. So don't touch them. There is a grudge between me and you. Ends here. Chi-Te now carried his body and stopped answering. Okay, I understand. I won't touch them. Don't kill me. Before leaving, the car did not forget to threaten. If you dare to break your promise, I won't let you down. Anyway, I have nothing left to do. After handling the matter of the snail driver, he looked up at the election. Heaven is silently reflecting. Have I listened to the orders of someone like this for a long time? And he also left that alley. On the other hand, Chi-tung was humiliated and extremely angry. Han swore to my heart, I will definitely avenge this feud. No matter how much it costs or how long it takes, I will definitely take revenge. Hyun Huayong, I will send you two to hell at all costs. After dealing with the numbness, the driver came to see Hu Yong, so he ran away from home. For the sake of my family and also burying myself is the best way. At this point, Hu Yong questioned. No matter how he said it, it was because he didn't have any right measures. No, you're stupid. However, the driver said that he had thought carefully before deciding to do so. Hearing this, Hu Yong also sympathized. That decision was also suitable for his situation. It just didn't suit my wallet. Siachi admitted that he had nowhere to go anyway, so he was responsible. But Huayong still wondered. Why did he think that? So Zechariah thought that this was Huayong's offer. So you hurriedly retorted. You misunderstood what I meant. His words seemed to make Theseus realize the implication. If you don't like it, I'll go. The atmosphere just became extremely quiet. Since he didn't see Huayong respond, he turned his face away and left. I understand. Anyway, with this body, I can survive anywhere. Bothering me a lot. Looking at the silhouette of him leaving, Hu Yong was very bitten. This brat, if he left it alone, he would be 100% sure that he would join a gang of thugs or loan sharks. And finally Hu Yong made his own decision. He hurriedly chased after and called for a snail. Really? First of all, just follow me. See how it is and calculate later. Hu Yong's proposal made him very appreciative. Thank you. After a while, he also arrived at Hu Yong's house. At this moment, Yuna was holding a basket of clothes on the rooftop. She walked while listening to music. Her mood seemed to be very excited. Suddenly, a tall figure came from behind. This man gradually moved closer to her. And then Yuna also noticed something strange. So she turned around and watched. Yuna looked at his huge body and panicked. A bear must be a bear. At that moment, Yuna hurriedly ran away and called for help. But this person greeted her politely. However, because it was too dark, Yuna thought it was a talking bear. It wasn't until a moment after a closer look that Yuna regained her composure. When she found out that it was a person, Yuna breathed a sigh of relief, and it turned out to be a person. However, her attitude made the car quite confused. At this moment, a person in the house suddenly walked out. Hu Yang asked softly, I'm back. Just when the water was boiling. But Yuna's appearance surprised him quite a bit. You come up here to dry your clothes. You can just be natural. So Yuna asked, but who is this? Hu Yang hurriedly explained. Then my guest. Knowing the situation, Yuna was a little surprised. Hu Yang's brother. It's nice to meet you. In Lana Yuna. However, Zechariah corrected. Oh no, I'm Hu Yang's younger brother. His name is Kong Xiachi. The names of the two immediately made Yuna wonder. What's the surname Kong? But Huyong is the surname Huyong. Huyong hurriedly reasoned. It's very long to say. In short, he will live here with me temporarily. In front of the tall body of the snail driver. Partly made Yuna afraid. Like a real bear. A few minutes later, Huyong hurriedly asked to come in quickly. And the water was already boiling. So the snail driver immediately complied. And when he went inside, he saw a pot of noodles that looked very delicious. Huyong wholeheartedly sucked him a big bowl. The snail driver quickly squeezed the noodles to relieve the heat, then ate it deliciously. Seeing that he was urging like that, Huyong advised, eat slowly. No one will steal from him. But say Snail criticized me for saying that after leaving the house. I hadn't eaten anything, so I was too hungry. Therefore, he suggested, it is also true to the body. But it is also a real sin to have to starve. I'll cook 2 more packages. Thank you very much. Hu Yang politely said thank you. But there are only a few packets of noodles. Well, but he kept using glasses. It's okay to talk all the time. Say Snail gently revealed. Since you are officially responsible for me, you have to be polite to me. However, Hu Yang was shocked. I was very shy, so don't say that anymore. Even so, Siachi remained steadfast. And I thought it was basic to speak politely to his master. But I'm not the owner at all. Let's just think of me as your brother and talk about it comfortably. Calling my master reminded me of the name of Ionkite. And we are not a gang at all. Yet Zechariah ignored it. I've always said that, so I feel more comfortable. Huang was helpless in the face of this situation. Who is really comfortable with such a thing? It's up to you. As long as you like it. With Hu Yong's approval. Seoke Che was very excited. I see. So I'll continue to do this. However, in Hu Yong's heart, he was still bitter, pretending to be polite and finally doing what he wanted. This guy. Suddenly during the meal, Seoke Che asked softly, "So what are you going to do tomorrow?" Hu Yong replied, "I was also going to ask you. I thought about it for a long time, but I still didn't know what to do. Where should I go and what should I do now?" Seoke Che said, "Whether it's business or school, you have to have money first." Even he had to admit this. He didn't have money. Suddenly, Zeniki reminded me of the old story. If it was Yonki, he would send me around the school and take down the leaders and get the money back. But his words made Huyan very uncomfortable. That's not my style. He was not the only one who came to Zechariah to feel the same way. I also think so. I don't do such rash actions. I'm old enough, but I'm still not old enough to be a member. So I don't have much to do. What if I work at the construction site for 2 or 3 days and then I go to deliver food in the evening? Although it is a bit tiring. If you want to make money in a short time, this is probably a good way. Hearing him say that, Hugh was curious. Do you know how to ride a motorcycle? Yes. I have been driving a motorbike recently. Suddenly, she remembered the story of the past. Because Yamkita had been before. Suddenly that Hu Yang stopped him from speaking. There was no need to explain in detail. The important thing was the present. 3 days of working as a night worker as a shipper. The next morning at a restaurant in the city. The two brothers went here together to apply for a job. Fortunately, the owner of the restaurant agreed to accept the two of them. At the same time, the delivery people at my place quit their jobs. My wife and I are worried about what to do. 2 people were accepted into the job. Extremely excited. We will work hard. At this moment, he added to the rest of you. Aren't you brothers and sisters? It was for this reason that Hu Yong immediately turned to question Shakespeare at his suspicious appearance. We're not bastards. The boss's expression was very skeptical about his status. But in the end he agreed to ignore it. It's not okay. Since we are in a bit of a hurry, it would be good if you guys could do it right away. But keep one thing in mind. Avoid the blue riders. Although he was very curious, he insisted on it. Just listen to me. That evening on the highway, a blue car appeared. This person was wearing a shirt with the word Blue Breeze. They were a gang that looked very aggressive. The restaurant's owner's reminder made the two of them very curious. Whoever rides a green motorcycle must avoid everything. He then revealed that if you look closely, there seems to be a lightning tattoo on their right hand. But you can't stare at a stranger's hand. Can you? Whether it's a racing car, a scooter or whatever, if you see a blue motorcycle on the road, don't look at it and avoid it. If you find it dangerous, you shouldn't work at my store. Not even the recent ones. I said this for the sake of the two of you. However, the two of them are very confident. It's okay. We will do it. Hearing this, the boss was very satisfied with the two of them. That night, on the way home, Hu Yang gently told him to stop by the convenience store where he was buying some noodles and beer. But Say Snail replied that I was not old enough to drink. I would just drink milk. Seeing him so cowardly, Hu Yang advised, actually, it's just an alcoholic barley drink. Okay, you can drink whatever you want. Seeing the visitor coming, Yuna was excited and asked to come in. Yet she looked uncomfortable. I don't sell cigarettes anywhere. Misunderstood. Suksh hurriedly explained. I don't smoke. Yuna continued to warn. Alcohol is also not sold. But his answer is still no. After a while, only Huiyong went to the checkout. Yuna's eyes were confused when she saw Suksh buying a carton of milk again. Seeing that Yuna was always fishing, Suksh asked, just not paying for it. Yuna looked at his expression in disbelief. Shortly afterwards, Huiyong questioned because of his move. Hey, don't stand like that. Who doesn't have a hobby? So Yuna hurriedly charged the two of them. Seeing that Yuna finished counting the money, Suksh politely thanked him and took out the money to pay. Although it was very historical, it made her frustrated. Don't call me sister with such a ferocious face. He looked like a bare head in that strange place. Suddenly, The snail was silent, so it made Yuna very upset. So he told me that I hadn't given the extra money. This situation is really difficult to say. After a while, the two of them went to the table together. Before eating, he said that there were many gangs in the neighborhood near that store. It seemed that they were fighting and robbing, or going to other people's shops to disrupt business. Roughly such cases. At this moment, the snail car asked again, "Please get rid of them." However, Hyun wondered, why do we have to do that? We're not cops or heroes like Batman or Spider-Man. Suddenly, the snail's expression became serious. But if it was left like this, there would be a lot of complications, but also considered a good work. Hui-ong just drank a sip of beer and shouted angrily, "Do you know the outcome? What's the point of arbitrarily getting into other people's affairs just because you want to do something good? Going to prison once and being expelled from school twice. Then what's next? Anyway, I don't have the need to experience it again. The work of the police is for the police to take care of. We just need to do our own job well. What is the matter with the snails? What's more, money has to make money. So what? Now there is only beer and instant noodles. But later on, do we have to go eat in a luxurious place with spaghetti and wine? Now it's a little somber. But you and I go to eat together. Maybe there will be no beautiful girl with us at that time. Come to think of it. What are you thinking? You didn't have that when you talked to Ion Kite. Seochae asked calmly. So you said the same as when you talked to him? Hyun immediately pointed directly at him and said, no need for him to just say how comfortable he feels. It seems that at this time, both Seochae and Hyun are very satisfied with their lives at that time. Speaking harshly, he immediately picked up the beer can. And then from now on, let's try to get up. And if you have anything to do with the green motorcycle guys in the country, close your eyes and ignore them. They're bored a few times. You know, after speaking, the two of them drank water together. By the next morning at a construction site, the two had to work very hard to get bags of cement. In the evening, he hurriedly went to rush to get food for customers. And the best night food restaurant was amazing. Say Snail criticized with a large body to serve made customers very surprised. Even if he wished him a good meal, he also scared people to the point of blushing. Seeing the customer eat so enthusiastically, he was also very happy, looking at him looking delicious, probably partly because of my service. His gaze made the guest very apprehensive. Because of fear, customers had to constantly say that it was delicious. At this moment, a phone call for food called. You order a double cake. Yes, I will ship right away. Thank you. The boss immediately turned to ask the driver to criticize. Hey, you ship. You know the villa number. Where is 202 right? Yes, I know. After a while, Hyun also sent the food back. He then asked the boss. The snail driver criticized the delivery. However, his expression was very worried. Seeing this, Hu-yong asked softly, what's wrong? His face was about to become extremely serious. At that moment, Hu-yong hurried out. He hurriedly ran to the nearest hospital. And when he went inside, he shouted and called. After a few minutes of searching, he was also. I saw the snail car. His body was now covered in wounds, and even his hands had to be cast. This made Hu-yong feel like a rage. What had happened? Hu-yong couldn't wait to know what had happened to him during the whole conversation. After all, he was looking at him. Not so weak as to be vulnerable. That is the back. Say OC only said that because he was not very good at driving. It became such an excuse. Of course, this lie couldn't get past Hu-yong's eyes. He directly shouted, you look like a fool. Don't you? Do I look so stupid that I can't tell the difference between a car fall and a hit? After a while, the snail car still refused to speak. Hu-yong continued to speak. I know roughly why you have to come here, but I want to hear what you say with your own mouth. Other things I haven't said. But I think at least there is no need to lie about such things between us. Didn't you come to my house because you trusted me? Hu-yong's sincerity finally convinced the Australian driver. He recalled. At that time I had just finished delivering my things and was on my way home. He saw many lights falling towards him through the rearview mirror. There was something more and more unusual, as they all went in groups and accelerated towards themselves. What was more noticeable was that they were all traveling on green motorcycles. And the snail car was sure that they were the bastards for dinner, because I didn't want to get involved with them. It was easy for me, but they still got into trouble. After the order of a person with a tattoo on his hand. The car was immediately surrounded. It was obvious that they didn't leave themselves alone. Just turn left and there. As soon as he caught the turn signal, the tattooed man drove the gas basket forward, even pressing close to the left side to block the snail road. The two then stopped the car, and the driver immediately asked them, "What was wrong? If you don't want to die, follow us." One of them spoke up. There was no way back, and the snail driver decided to risk running after them. When we arrived at a place where there were no people, the whole group forced the driver into a dark corner, and then they stopped me again, until he took off his helmet. He still didn't realize who they were. Only a man who looked like the leader spoke up. "I've never seen this guy before. He just did it." The junior said, "There is a logo of a delicious nightclub on his car." "Ah, it's overtime." The car retaliated. "That's right. But are you blocking me? Is there anything wrong? If I accidentally do something disrespectful to you?" "I'm sorry." They heard it and laughed. "I'm sorry. You idiot. Don't you know who we are?" Yet he said that he didn't know. This is the source of the upcoming incident. The leader is near the door. "You try to ask if there are any motorcyclists in this area who don't know us?" He calmly replied, "First, I lived in another place, because I worked part-time, so I recently moved to this area. Today is also the first day of work, so I really don't know many of you." The junior, who was a little overzealous, was stopped by the purple hair. "Okay, I don't know. I know today. Anyway, you follow us from now on." The words he had just said raised a wave of suspicion towards his subordinates. The captain. He was going to let him into the Asian gang. What? It looks so delicious. What if it only gets the big one? If the boss knows? The snail now began to be ambiguous. Which was the team leader? Which was the boss? Everything became chaotic for him. After a moment's hesitation, he asked a question to reinforce the sect. "Now you don't listen to me anymore, do you?" "No, I don't dare." Black held his head halfway through his eyes. "If you want to stop it, you have to know the way and be a little clever. If you keep barking like this, I'll tear your mouth open." After correcting his subordinates, he returned to the main character of the night. "You'll follow me anyway. I'll explain more later." The snail driver immediately rejected this invitation. "That's probably not possible. Thank you for inviting me, but I don't really care. Sorry." Feeling that he was being humiliated, he immediately opened his lips. "It's true that you don't know anything. Blue Breeze invited you into Asia. We don't do that here. That's an order. Coming to this country, you still kept the courtesy and finally refused. Anyway, I don't care. Tam, I'm leaving. After all, you still have to use force. The leader has given the order. What are you still doing there?" Let him understand the problem. Looking at the burly people who were surrounding him, the snail driver wondered if he should fight or not. But Mr. Hu Yang said that if he let them hit him a few times, they would get bored and leave. According to that, he was punched in the shoulder and then kicked in the lower leg. And moreover, he was hit by a fatal blow to the stomach. However, he was still unharmed. So much so that they even had to think that this was a steel-sharp body. Black took the lead and said yes. "I said that it has real power. I look at you right." The snail driver thought that they were satisfied enough, so he asked to leave here first. There was something that the leader couldn't easily ignore: this lucrative smell. He boosted the spirit of his subordinates to a new level. "Hey, don't be careful. You're going to die." To let me see how sluggish it was, he took out an iron hand from his pocket and put it on. Then he gave a sharp pain to the chin of the snail car. "So I told you where to listen to him." In the next second, Han was stunned when he saw his expression. It's okay to eat a whole lump of iron on the mosquito net. This guy is really shocked. As for the snails, he still kept a calm attitude and repeated the question. "I guess you're done." In front of them, the snail turned his face and left without saying a word. And suddenly he felt that his whole body was so numb that he couldn't move. Then he gradually lost consciousness and collapsed underneath. It turned out that it was because the dirty purple-haired man used a gun to electrocute him. Recognizing that this guy was really hard, hiding him, when the car was no longer able to resist, they competed to kick him until a few minutes later, when the leader told them to stop. The snail car was now in ruins. Sarcastic. "You worked part-time at a delicious night. We'll see you again. And I advise you not to even think about calling the police. It won't work anyway." Speaking of which, this is also the time when the story of the snail car ends. Hu Yang didn't show his emotions. "Mine, just standing to the side listening to him. I think I must change jobs. It seems that they will still come to cause trouble. Hidden deep inside Hu Yang was the anger, as if he wanted to tear those brutes to pieces. In order to avoid worrying about the snails, Hu Yang only asked about the level of the shrimp. According to his account, if he had to fight, the snail car could beat the 5 of them at the same time. But it was obvious that they were stronger than the thugs in the school. And they had more fighting experience. And they had more blood. I see. You have suffered. What is this for? But even more troublesome, they have already seen the name of the restaurant we are working on the delivery truck. Sooner or later, they will come to be aggressive. For example, if you and I keep going quietly and go away, they will probably only come about 1 to 2 times. Although it is very wrong to do so, it is the best way. This innocence was quickly enlightened by Hu Yang. It's not a snail driver. They won't be easy to ignore with just 1 to 2 times. Why do you think that? I took the blow so as not to make a big deal out of it. If you have to fight from the beginning, perhaps. Mr. Lean interrupted. You're thinking too much. We still have the law. I mean to report to the police. Remembering the purple hare's threat, the car whimpered, but it seemed that they had their backs, just afraid that the police could not do anything to them. After all, he chose his own way of handling, only to see Hu Yong leave. That night, Hu Yong returned to the restaurant where he was working part-time. The boss asked worriedly, "What's wrong? Couldn't it be those guys on blue motorcycles? Because it is impossible to let this matter be exposed. I have to say no. It's just that the car was trying to avoid the cat suddenly rushing out of the bushes. So it just fell off the car. He's just a little bit strained. It has nothing to do with the motorcyclists." Hearing this, the owner of the restaurant took a breath. Seeing the scene of the restaurant being cleaned up, the tables and chairs were neat and tidy. He just remembered his duty to lie and kill and apologize. I should have stayed to clean up the store to help him. It's okay. What's wrong? Just clean up and rest. Yes. While cleaning, Hu Yang asked the owner, "But how formidable were those motorcyclists? And everyone has to be wary of them. After all, they were just the top thugs in the village." First, it was true. Every night, they gather and howl all the moisture. But it's just a few thugs who smash the wine and then cut it down. Until a guy named Yugen appeared. In just 3 days, he single-handedly defeated all the thugs around the area and led them. Each area has about 6 to 7 names, all of them forming the organization of the Dukundi Motosan. Hu Ihong Jiechin said, "So why don't you call the police? We live with the rule of law." Subjectively replied. Everyone naturally reported to the police. Many times it was the other way, but even if they called the police, they were only detained for a few days. After being released, the person who reported to the police would be retaliated against by them 3 times 4 times. Why is it only detained for a few days? According to what the owner knew, above them was a gang of gangsters. What about Hu Yang angrily telling the gangsters, "Can't the police solve it?" It's not an ordinary gangster. Among them are also people who own large businesses. Or people do politics too, like Kang Yuhuan. If you want to be a part of the organization, you must have a nomination from above. In short, this is a playground for those who have money and power. And low-necked people like us can't do anything. So we have to be careful to live through the day. Now he understands the situation of the game. So that's it. They are big-eared guys. They cover up those bastards' crimes and use them as punch ears. Accordingly, the owner of the restaurant continued. Anyway, I knew there was just this. Most of them have heard through everyone's stories. Yes, it's best not to tie in with them. That's right. That's the best. The conversation ended after the two had completed the final steps. As long as Hu Yang brought the last box of goods into the warehouse, it was done. When he was just packing his things, he noticed something around him. Out of curiosity, Hu Yong asked the boss, "What is this?" That's it. About 4 or 5 years ago, this shop sold chicken. The old boss seems to use it. Organize something. When I first opened the store, I also saw that I forgot the cake. Just keep it in the warehouse, so you don't notice. It's a bit of a pity to leave it, so I just keep it in storage. Turned out that it was so. He couldn't use it anyway. He asked to get this chicken-shaped costume and was agreed by the owner of the restaurant. The next morning, the gypsies continued to gather and lit a few cigarettes, and I put sleeping pills in his glass. Suddenly, the appearance of a special character attracted their attention. Huyen in the costume of a chicken already. Speak up. A blue motorcycle. A lightning tattoo on the back of his hand. That's right. You guys. The uneducated people dug their free professions to destroy villages and villages. Receiving the words. He walked straight to them. The name with the tattoo is all up. What is this? Delivery or what? That's right. I'll deliver it. Hand over the fist of love. That's enough. First, eat one of your dad's ice. After saying that, he immediately kicked the orange-headed man. The white-haired man was startled because his strength was so great. Where did this chicken come out? Very quickly, he became Huyen's second target. Because of his convenience, he stopped punching and then kicked him again, punishing him. Then the tattooed man realized the problem, and he immediately ordered his subordinates to come forward and block it. The two men under the order rushed over, but were immediately counterattacked by him. One had been punched to the point of having no future. The other was swollen in helplessness, stammering. Who are you? Do you know who we are? You dare? Do you know what? Knowing well is the other way. As he spoke, Hu Yang took out a spray bottle from inside his pocket. He sprayed a few basic lines on his shirt and emphasized, "Tomorrow is at this time. I'll be back. Take a shower and wait for me to know." Without letting him say much, he borrowed the power of the chicken's beak to hit the brute in the face, causing him to hug his bloody face and tremble. "I'm a giant super spicy fried chicken." For a moment, they were all lying on the ground floor. Hu Yang only glanced around and then quickly left. I don't know how long it has passed, and I don't know why they woke up. The orange-headed man sat up in a dream. He was kind enough to wake up his brothers. "You've all fainted. Slip the ass and get up. None of them have peed yet, right? Now the whole group is willing to take care of their faces." The white-haired man asked if the chicken had left earlier. Who was that guy after all? Suddenly hit us. The pathetic man spoke up. "Tomorrow is to know." "How do you know?" "That bastard will come again tomorrow." "How do you know?" "Maybe you fainted, so you can't hear it." That's what he said. Tomorrow is still today. This location. He will still come. The sky was dark. At the foot of the bridge, a group of thugs appeared. Typically, there are 4 names standing apart from the crowd. At a glance, I knew that they were the ones who were knocked down by the Huyen in the morning. Stand neatly in. Can't stand upright? Your bones are thin, aren't they? No, grit your teeth tightly. I won't accidentally slap one of your teeth. This was Ian In, the captain of the group. He said, "But it seems that I misheard it just now. So I'll ask again. You guys, who? No, what kind of fight? Yes, chicken." He quickly received a heavenly punch accompanied by Yanggin's criticism. "Did you guys get beaten by a chicken? Are you proud? Is it glorious? These idiots are so proud of being punched by a chicken, right? How does your father have to send a report to the top? The disciples were beaten, and the opponent is a chicken. You told me to report like that? My status and face are thrown away for the book." The junior keeps saying sorry, so much so that I didn't have the strength to explain anything more. After getting angry, Yang In asked, "Did that chicken say it was coming tomorrow?" "Yes, he said that." Yang In then asked all the members of the group to gather at that spot tomorrow. "Just one guy who is late will break my neck. Is it clear?" "Yes." The next morning, according to the appointed time, countless ducals were in the old alley. Yang In asked, "Is it coming?" "It's past the hour." The blonde replied hesitantly, "But I heard him say that." And the blonde ate another step. "If it doesn't come, you'll die in its place. You'll be hunted down until I catch it. You're going to be constantly being erased." You know? When he was about to teach a few more lessons, the protagonist appeared. Hu Yang in a chicken costume. "The main road has entered the interior. The chicken is so good." He looked at this overwhelming number and was still strong-mouthed. "What is this? I'm a little disappointed. I said it clearly yesterday. Prepare carefully. Do you mean we're going to lose? Losing to you alone? I guess I have to be blunt. Not to lose. It's just that there is a ticket to the maxillofacial department." This word directly provoked Yang In. "You guys lost to that guy. I'll have to get rid of you guys in a moment." The blonde at the end said, "I'm sorry, but he looks so crazy. It's not very strong. Very strong. With your level. It's also true." Saying that, Ian In has given an attractive task to his subordinates. Take off its chicken head. The guy who can take it off is me first. Hot test 1 million rolls. On the other side, who Ian was also reluctant to respond. He said I wanted to play too. Whoever can take off my hat gives me 2 million rolls. One of them rushed at the baseball bat, and he had to keep his word. Thinking that he was going to hit them, Hu Yong completely dodged away, and then approached him directly in the face. Rest assured, I'm prestigious. The thing is, it's not easy to eat from my father. So one of them was on the board. Next, he turned his eyes to the right wing. Saw? What do you guys think of fried chicken with spicy sauce? Does it fit your mouth? Another guy who didn't know how to measure his own strength and tried his skills with him. The result is still on the scoreboard. This is a chicken punch on this crunch. Put on the hat and fight comfortably. This concept of mine is real. I also have a lot of talent. Can you wear this on a TV cutting? That's right. A chicken with a spicy sauce on TV is not interesting. But what to do? Just wearing a chicken suit is also a bit boring. Or do you wear chicken clothes and do acrobatics? It will probably be better. I can also make a lot of money. Unconscious thoughts have caused so many lives to fall. He was just in love. Mistaken? What are you thinking about when you're fighting? Now his opponent is only one named Yong-in. Somehow, miraculously, he grabbed him by the neck. Suddenly I was fighting with you guys, and I was swept away by the flow of thought. Too rude. He asked him in this row. Who are you after all? What is your purpose? You love me so much, so you probably aren't qualified to talk to me. Tomorrow at this time, I will come again. This time, remember to prepare carefully. Did you know? Accepting the word. Hu Yang used it again. The chicken slaughtered the rice directly in Yang Yin's face, moving the branches to an abandoned factory. Someone can be heard venting their anger. Have you been fed onions lately? I'm sorry, big brother. These days are a sensitive period. I told you not to let things like that happen. But none of you listened to me, right? Dongjin immediately denied it. There was something his old man didn't think so. Gata slowly put the cigarette butt into Dongin's boredom. So what is the reason? You guys got beaten again. At this time, Kong Ilgun warned that, not long ago, there was a reception of big-eared mainlanders and representatives of contractors who treated the executives of large corporations. They have high expectations for us. They said that if we successfully complete some of the tasks they assigned, then we will become full members of the mainland faction. Don't do trivial things like you do now. The important thing is to become an official member of the mainland faction. I've put in so much effort just to have that one guarantee. You can't imagine it. However, my junior was kicked in the ass by a mental chicken. What if that rumor spread to those old men's ears? How will it all turn out? Ion Injin Shu replied, we won't be able to join the mainland sect anymore. The EU has the audacity to deny it, because I have already decided. No matter how dirty tricks I use, I will make the mainland accept our gang. Hearing that, Ong-in wondered. Then, you. Guts gritted and said, then only you will die. I'm gonna punch you to death. I don't use exaggeration. I'm gonna show you what it feels like to be alive rather than dead. After you die, I'll put you in a barrel and throw it into the sea. Maybe thousands of years later, someone will pick you up and become famous all over the world. Maybe our Ionin will be on display in the museum. I'm so jealous. Yugen's threats made Ionin tremble. He stammered back. I will definitely catch you. That chicken today. Yugen tucked his lips coldly. How? I heard that you have already been knocked out before you have time to swing your fist. If you couldn't eat it yesterday, can you think today? Ionin replied in a daze. I will do my best. His answer only irritated Yugentham. You mean you didn't try your best yesterday? You mean that during such an important period, you are still doing business? That's what you mean, right? Ionin hurriedly replied. Yes. No. I don't dare. Why is this? Don't you have any specific countermeasures? But only ask me for more opportunities to hire? What if you fail again? Answer. In short, you are a nonsense fighter. Or do you just answer that to tear up with me? At this time, Yugyun's whole body trembled and stammered. No, I don't dare. I'm sorry. But Yugyun didn't let go of Yugyun. He shouted. You have to answer when you ask. Why do you keep apologizing? Under Yugyun's pressure, Yugyun's tears began to flow from his eyes, sweating profusely, and he apologized. That love made Yugyun even more uncomfortable. Again, unable to hold back, Yugyun suddenly burst into tears. Then he shouted, I'm really sorry, because I'm stupid. I don't know how to answer. Please tell me. I'll do whatever you say. Yugen smiled sinisterly when he heard that. I also know how strong you are. You move the bandage. You go to another area. That chicken, I'll take care of. Einen replied in horror. Thank you. I'm going to do it myself. Yugen replied coldly. No, this case is not worth me. Personally take action. Einen, I don't think you're capable of standing up after this incident. Where's the captain? I'll leave it to Kong Yuziong. Hearing this name, Einen suddenly felt useless. Kong Yuziong, boss's younger brother, was recently released from prison. Yugen at this time solemnly told you to explain and guide Yuziong's work. You know, that guy's personality is worse than mine. Yanin immediately understood what he meant. I got it. Immediately afterwards, on the deserted street, the sound of motorcycle engines roared loudly. Yanin has been waiting for EUC for a long time. You're here. When the car arrived, the brakes folded. EUC, he took off his helmet. His attitude didn't like Yanin. He asked coldly, You're Yanin. Immediately, Yongin and the juniors immediately bowed to the person 90 degrees in unison. Yes, we greet you. However, Yusong's attitude was not friendly at all. He said sharply, I also heard that you were beaten. The words made Yongin blush, and then killed the last person. Sorry. Yusong saw that and scolded for a fight, and then asked, Where? Take me to the chicken. Yongin hurriedly responded, and immediately their group set off to Hu Yang's place. After arriving, Yugon asked curiously, Is it that chicken? You guys have been crushed by it. Yongin saw it and confessed. He had no words to defend. Suddenly, Hu Yang spoke up. It's a little late today. It worries me. I thought you guys had died. Yusian angrily cursed the turtle, not expecting such a huge chicken. Huyen heard that, and suddenly stood up. What? Are they still the same ones from yesterday? You guys want to be beaten again, right? Yusian shouted loudly. Be careful with your mouth. Today. But before he could finish speaking, Yusian interrupted him. You guys just stand there and watch. I'm going to solo with it. Huyen laughed. Could it be that you are Kong Yuganha? Yusian couldn't help but be surprised. Do you know his name? Indeed. What do you mean? Hu Yang immediately smirked at him. Who do you see talking about your intentions? Aren't you stupid? It's also true. Now is not the time to cut wood. I will slowly torture you. Too fast and unhappy. This confrontation seems to be quite interesting. Hu Yang smiled and said that you are too confident. But to say that you can't have it, you have to have strength. You see, he heard the most mocking. Actually, it seems that you don't know much about me. Do you know where there are the most evil floods on this land? Hearing this, Huyen also tilted his horse to guess. Could it be that the EUC, he said in a close voice, that it was a prison for the beat boys? I just got the leader in it and got out of jail with an excellent degree. At this moment, Hu Yong suddenly thought, I remember when I was released from prison. The big man in that area was, could he have defeated all the others? If that's true, then I'm going to have to fight with my life. And in this ridiculous outfit, maybe I'll lose. Seeing Hu Yong's insecurity and aggressive spirit in that chicken suit, Yu Seong couldn't help but laugh. He turned to tell Yong-in's accomplices to take a closer look. Yes. Then EUC, he rushed to attack. Speed like lightning and cold eyes. The punches and kicks made Hu Yang struggle to resist. And he couldn't help but be amazed. He constantly attacked, punched and kicked. Yang's accomplices who witnessed it were also admiring. And in the blink of an eye, they launched 5 punches in a row. Indeed, the younger brother of the boss. At this time, Yu-Si was extremely complacent. He was mocking. What, are you going to fight back? Then he continued to punch Hu Yang hard. But quite unexpectedly, Hu Yihong bounced back, blocking 5 punches and his wrath. This support surprised Yu Xiong, not believing his eyes. Suddenly, Hu Yihong spoke up. Now I know. You're a fool, right? Huh? With 5 punches like this, you must have suffered for 100 years, right? That sentence made Yu Xiong frown. His face was about to be stunned, and he didn't know how to respond for a moment. Then the EUCO immediately asked, You have also been to Chambit? Huyen replied, For a while. I've been out for a while. Well, you've been out for a long time, so you probably don't know. I'm Chambit, the EUCO. Accepting the words, he threw a punch straight at Huyen. However, the result is no different from the last time. Huyen could help it easily, even sarcastic. It was nothing. Saying that, Hu Yang turned around and tossed The kick was hard on Yu Xiong, causing him to fly away, smashing the ground. Yu Xiong's juniors rolled their eyes and cried out in panic. Deputy leader, are you okay? Yu Xiong gritted his teeth in agony, then shouted loudly and walked away. Dog, die. As he spoke, Yu Xiong rushed forward to attack. But Hu Yang discovered something. After Yu Xiong's attack, Yu Xiong was nervous and hit his head. Then suddenly Yu Xiong hugged his hand and cried out in pain. Hu Yang slowly removed the mask. Chicken out. Piss him off. Went crazy yesterday. Is there any idiot who would punch a good helmet? Aim elsewhere. This belly. Chest. A lot. Hearing that, you see he couldn't help but get angry and curse the turtle. Then rushed to Lian Huan and punched Hu Yang in the face. You teased him again. But I'm very embarrassed if you punch me in the chest. If you listen to me, you will suffer less. Hu Yang held Yu Xiong's hand tightly. Then he smiled sinisterly. Come on. Now I'm going to tell you. Listen. Lie down and watch. Yu Xiong was too angry. Go die. Taking the opportunity that he was losing his temper, Hu Yang kicked so hard that he fell to the ground. Hu Yang also praised him, lying on his stomach. Hey, good. Listen to me. Then. Now get up. That's right. It's good. Ayu Seong is even more angry. Crazy man. You don't tell me either. Get up on your own. Hu Yang heard that sarcastically. I'm not sure you can get up. Ayu Seong rushed forward again. But in just 3 seconds, Hu Yang slapped him hard in the face, causing Ayu Seong to fall to the ground again. He didn't stop cursing turtles. Crazy blood. Meanwhile, Hu Yang thought to himself, this guy was also quite skilled, but he had not yet reached the real level to falter in his silence. If it was according to the standards in the slap, he was only at the level of rank 4 or 5. There are many more terrifying monsters than this. On the other hand, Yang Yin's side couldn't help but panic. The deputy leader couldn't even eat, and it was embarrassing to look at it like this. This is a unilateral pounding, not fighting. Ball. You and Song were close to the voice. You guys. Yes. Wipe out your memories of tonight. Ian immediately replied yes. You can rest assured. We won't mention anything about the match. Fools. Not only about the match, but not just about anything. You know? Yes. At that time, Ian was confused about what he was suddenly attacking. So, it's too uneasy. After speaking, the EU will turn to the other chicken. Do you know that you are very extravagant? Hu Yang just smiled, straightforwardly. Answer. The level like mine is okay. Why you see Ong immediately asked. Do you know why I have to go into the bit acupuncture? The crime of murder failed. This time I will turn it into nothing. Hu Yang heard the laughter and said, oh my god, you surprised me quite a bit. I'm not going to joke and I'm going to have a fight with you. So why don't you put the knife in your pocket? Why you see B laughed loudly, right? Are you afraid to see a knife? Today I will ask you to become a sieve. I said one last time. Put away the knife. I'm worried about you. That's why I said that. You see B shouted angrily. Worried about your life first. Seeing how Yu Seong used the knife, Hu Yang immediately knew that he was in danger. He swung his knife without hesitation. He really intended to kill himself today. If this bastard is not coaxed, the day when he will actually kill people is not far away. After thinking about it, Hu Yang stepped forward and hit Yu Seong's stomach hard, causing him to bow down in pain. Hu Yang immediately said, you think you are the most terrifying person. You. Just one scream and others will tremble and follow suit. You enjoy that feeling very much, don't you? Unfortunately, life is not like a dream. Yusian heard that he cursed the turtle in hot blood. Dog. Don't preach morality to me. Huyen immediately gave the guy a lesson. Yusian's body began to tremble. Huyen kept asking, angry? Are you going crazy? Now you're using a knife to fight the chicken you despised in the first place. UC0 once again rushed to attack. Seeing my Han's stubbornness, Huyen is determined this time. I will teach you very carefully. Then punched UC0 in the face with a little concession. Han felt pain. His mind was dizzy. He cursed silently. Something like this. Hu Yang mocked. Yang. A name like yours is nothing. What about you? Is there money? The deputy leader Ai Yusong had been defeated. So Yang In began to get scared, and hurriedly replied, yes, we will collect all the money we have. Then Yang In told the juniors, give them all the money. Hurry up. Hu Yang suddenly waved his hand and said, No need. Go buy this for me. Hearing that, In couldn't help but wonder back. Leader Yugen asked, this, that bastard does. In nodded in response. Yugen was furious, almost crushing the phone in his hand. It turned out that what Hugh Ion told In to buy was a pen. I bought what you told me. Thank. Hugh Ion opened the pen and muttered. You have to teach them to go to the place where they are hiding, right? His name is Song, right? Hearing your name, this or that. If your name is Su Ziong, it's much better. It's a pity. Hu Yang himself had to admire. Suddenly so cool. This guy let the bride really fit. Later, tell him to grow long hair and try it. How much cooler. Yang Yin stood by and looked at it and said yes. He wondered, what the hell? Why did I have to bear this? You bastards. After completing the drawing of the moon bracket on Yu Xiong's face, Hu Yang laughed so much that he burst into tears. And remember to pass on the word to that brave you. Do you want to meet once? Returning, Yugen asked closely. What's wrong with Yu Xiong? Iong Yin immediately replied. I'm not too seriously injured. I've taken him to a nearby hotel. It will also take quite a bit of time to erase all those words. I'm sorry. We didn't do well. Yugen got angry and threw down the phone, cursing the turtle and the dog. He said he would appear every day in that place. Right? I just have to go see him. Yugen's angry expression made Owen stand by and remain silent. Yugen also said, I'll go in person tomorrow. Yes. The scene was transferred to a restaurant. Hyuksu's voice rang out, and the people who followed the scent of clouds and flowers were blind. The fog of fading embryo smoke has taken someone far. Suddenly, someone ran to call. Hey, that guy, senior. He immediately gestured for silence, causing Hyuksu to be angry. It's not yet time to open the door. But it's not so terrible. At that moment, two guests entered, and the fairy immediately smiled and greeted them, inviting them. Those two people just passed by. When Australia was surprised. I knew this uncle. Senior leaders of the mainland faction. Why are they here now? It was Gyo Bong, a cadre of the mainland faction and followed by the leader of Yugen. When Australia Su couldn't help but be curious. He eavesdropped on the conversation between them. At this time, Gyo Bong raised his voice authoritatively and sat down. Yes. Then he told you to wait. Go make something delicious. Yes. After speaking, Gyo Bong lined up a glass of wine and handed it to Ayugon. Drink it. Thank you. Ayugon took it. And without a hint of nakedness, he took a clean breath. He still has a heart of praise. The space is very bright and airy. Hearing this, Gyo Bong said with a smile. The revenue here is also increasing continuously. This is a good place to do a few private things before starting a business. We also had the thought of entrusting you with a place like this if you followed us. Yugen was suddenly stunned. He had a thought. Suddenly, Gyo Bong turned to ask frankly, but should I accept you now? Yes. I happened to hear some interesting rumors. Your disciples were beaten. It didn't make Yugen panic. He couldn't hide it. Gyo Bong continued. Not only the disciples, but also his younger brother heard that he had also been beaten. The words like a knife stabbing directly into Yugen's heart made him feel completely disappointed. It was true. But where did he hear this? Gyo Bong immediately replied. At first I was only disappointed because you were weak under you. But now I am also disappointed in you. What the hell are you doing? Instead of answering the mainland official's question, did you just ask me back? Yugen replied at the end of his face. I'm sorry. I'm rude. Sorry. That's okay. Answer. Yes. That's the truth. Her juniors, including her younger brother, were beaten by a man wearing a chicken mask. Gyo Bong suddenly asked seriously. What does it mean that such a nonsense rumor has already spread to my ears? This means that many people have heard this news. The EU replied. That's right. So the solution is, today, I'm gonna deal with that guy. Did you personally take action? Yes. He can beat even my brother, proving that his level is quite high, and he can't send anyone in the gang away. I only have a way to do it myself. Gyo Bong clicked his tongue, sighing like that, considering an unpleasant reality. His gang was just like that, which made Eugene bewildered. Yes. Gyo Bong continued to say, no matter how good he was at fighting, he was still the boss. The boss only sent his juniors to work. Whoever took it upon themselves to do it. Yugen heard that and replied, I'm sorry. I still don't understand what you mean. Gelbong then asked again. Do you think that beating him will be very glorious? Don't. On the battlefield, if the general could not direct the army but had to directly swing his sword, the result would have been lost. Just because of one madman, his entire organization was shaken. How can I introduce you to President Aelki-hwan? At this time, Yugen just lowered his head and pondered. Listening painfully, I replied, I'm sorry. Gyobong continued to say, we are evil. Lately, it seems that he is a little back. So he has forgotten his identity, thinking that he is a businessman or something. But he is really just a bastard. You want to be like us? Yes. Then you have to behave like a bad person. Don't catch half of it first. The bad guy also has his own reputation. You guts to raise his head. Determined eyes. I understand. Tonight, I'm going to be a real bad guy. Hearing that, Gyobong was extremely satisfied. I waited for good news. Besides, Hai-su listened to the whole conversation and thought, this could be. On the other hand, at a construction site, there was a phone ringing. Hu-yong picked up the phone and listened. Allo. The other end of the line replied, oh, no, I'm Hyu-su. You know, last time I saved your number. What's wrong? Hyu-su immediately said, I want to ask, have you been wearing a chicken mask and gonna fight lately, right? Huh? What is it? I don't understand. I just asked. But it turned out that you were real? Why do you keep doing it without thinking about it? Hearing this, Hu Yihong wondered, what's wrong? Xiao-su suddenly shouted, this guy, the mainland sect has already noticed. Yes, I've heard it too. That's the reaction? Of course, the mainland sect will know. Oh my god, you're going to fight again today, right? Hu-yong was quite surprised. How do you know that? You heard a lot of noise, didn't you? Hyo-su immediately said that I don't have time to explain now. Don't go out today. Hu-yong asked. Why? But Xiao-su only instructed. Today is not one-on-one. They will definitely dry up their blood with you. I don't know exactly how many people there are, but it must be more than a dozen. Of course, I know you're good at punching, but more than a dozen people don't even know if you have a weapon. You can't joke. Fortunately, they hadn't discovered his true identity yet. So it's Hu-yong. Just live quietly and get through the day. Just stop here. Hu-yong immediately said, a little disappointed. Hyo-su said loudly that he was disappointed. He hoped that the gangsters would be gentle and kind. It's not them who are disappointed in you. Hyo-su. Huh? I risked my old life to tell you what to say. Of course. Thank you very much for taking care of me. But you don't even understand what kind of person I am? No matter how many people the other party has. No matter how strong I am. I'm the kind of person who will hide from fear, right? Hearing this, Hippo-su couldn't help but be bewildered. Huh? This time, Hu-yong couldn't help but be excited. Even though he knew the danger, he still plunged his head into the fire like burning himself. It will be interesting. Returning, after finishing the meeting at Bar 3, Yugon immediately called his disciple and ordered all Blue Bliss members to train, starting and changing scenery, at an old desolate construction site. Yugen was waiting there and killed a cigarette. Soon, the Blue Beats group entered one after another. Lining up in front of Yugen, they looked at their leader with expectant eyes. Yugen was silent for a few seconds. His expression was thoughtful, but his eyes were burning with anger, signaling that a dramatic battle was about to break out. The bodyguard was standing over there in a dark building. He held a cigarette and smoked his comrades, shouting loudly at the leader. Love with an extremely mysterious face. Thank the Dragon Master. Gather the whole army. One of the guys who got my hands dirty just contacted the deputy leader. He was temporarily absent. I haven't deleted that sheet yet. It seems so. Just leave it alone. Is there anything else to go? Ji-hung's group hasn't arrived yet. Got in touch with it? When my father called me earlier, he said he would come right away. This made Yugon extremely angry. This bastard Ji-hung is okay. Today I personally showed his face. But he dared to be late. When I called earlier, he said that he was preparing a gift for the leader. He was not someone who dared to disregard your orders. Even then, there is no way I can safely use idiots who don't even have a concept of time. Now, there was a much more important issue than that. The punishment for Ji-hung and the members of his group would be decided later. The EU has paid all the attention to the whole council clearly. As we all know, Blue Beach is currently facing two paths. One is the glorious path to becoming a member of the leading continental organization in our country. and the other is to become a survivor at the bottom of society. In such an important period, there appeared a fly that was not a policeman, not a public opinion, but a single bastard. Only a madman wearing a chicken mask who stood in our way. Do you guys think it's reasonable to have a guy in a chicken mask threaten our success? Originally, I was just gonna stand by and watch you guys deal with it like we used to do before. But this news was spread to the cadres in the mainland faction. Although it is a little different from the truth, there are few people who care. Do you want that? I'm gonna be kicked out of the continent and you're gonna have to go back to the life of the evil thugs you want, right? Don't want to? Having been born a man, you have to eat big. It is natural to fight a big battle. I'll make an appointment to meet that bastard and then you guys have to deal with it yourself. Take off that bastard's mask. Break his bones. Break his limbs. 5 punches are also weaponized as well. Except for murder. Everything else is acceptable. At this time, it was raining in diapers, and everyone ran to avoid the rain. Yugen took Zhu to a place. The chicken-masked man appeared and asked, "I'm Yugen, the leader of the Blue Beast. I heard that you want to see me. I've arrived. Thank you for coming first. Let's exchange something. Different from what Hyuksu said. You're in a hurry. You can rest assured that you'll be able to fight for the rest of your life. I had this before. I wanted to ask, what was your purpose? Whose orders do you listen to? It's not a secret if you're curious. So I have to tell you. How could he say it so easily? So suspicious? Eugen was suspicious. Because you're a mean bastard. Looking at the rain car like this, you are the only one who monopolizes the big car. And you also force your juniors to cover yourself in the rain. I know you won't be able to tell me your intentions easily. You want me to have to test my butt before I can say it, right? Then, just try to see if you have real strength. I don't know which guy's ass is blooming. I'm sorry, but your opponent is not me. Call them to the whole army to gather now. It was raining more and more heavily, and a group of people began to pull over, everyone holding a stick in their hands. Sure enough, just as I thought. At least your brother has the courage to repay you. Maybe you're inferior to your brother. You know I'm the leader of these things. It's not for me to move. You have to defeat all my juniors. And then I'll take care of you. Let's tell the truth that you're scared. So you have to hide behind the boys. Why do you have to do something? This bastard is really single-mouthed. Do you have to deal with it before I smoke it all? Starting to go. Those guys rushed in from the front and behind. But the chicken mask guy was very fast. He dodged their blows. He's quick. But that's all he can do. The problem was that he only lasted a few minutes. This is also an extremely unfavorable situation. Even the heavens are not on your side. The rain made it impossible for me to see ahead. So he received a blow from behind. He ate the stick and pounded it. Hu Yang thought to himself in their minds, "You're glad a little early." So he quickly ran away and gave each of them a kick in the face. They also couldn't expect that this chicken mask guy had such a tall body. The obstructed vision makes me get my hands and feet stuck too much. Yugen held a cigarette but did not forget to blame. "Hey, how long do I have to wait? I'm almost done smoking this one. We'll take care of it right here." One of them grabbed the sword and tried to put it in his face. But fortunately it caught up. Not only that, but he also gave him a slap in the face. Just one punch made him fall to the ground. The rest of the men stood and watched with bewildered faces. Hyun wondered why it was so wet. Was it blood or so stinky surgery? It's gonna take a bit of time. But I can handle these, Lola. The problem was him. I still don't know exactly what his strength is, but it's definitely not easy to eat. Maybe I'm in good health to be able to fight him. The guy threw his running out cigarette on the ground. I thought I could deal with him quickly, but it seems that he is stronger than I thought. If I fight one-on-one, I probably have to be very bad. Of course, it is true that you should follow the advice of the experts. The golfer gave him a slap in the face. But Hyun was not the type to just bite his shirt with his mouth. That guy also couldn't expect to be hit in the back, but another guy hit Hu Yong on the back with a stick. He had to fight all 3 stick-wielding men alone. The other guy's face was also distorted, and he punched those guys with all his strength. Hu Yong alone has killed so many names. I started to get tired and like this. My hand would be injured. Sometimes I even had to take off my helmet. Suddenly, a new car rushed in from nowhere, making everyone look up. Yugen was surprised and didn't know who came. Hyun was also extremely curious. It turned out to be a snail driver. "Where is your army?" First, I apologized to the big brother. In fact, Before he had time to speak, he was punched in the face. Thank you for escorting you to bedtime. You're Yugen, aren't you? What's more? That guy slammed his face down and walked straight. The Australian driver looked out the window and said that he was really bored. He was the only one in the hospital. Suddenly he heard a knock on the door. Mr. Hu Yen, come in. Howling Yen began to ask if he was well, followed by a whole army. What kind of expression is it, unhappy to meet you? Mr. Howling Yen told him not to move. How did you find this place? Dad went to your place to work part-time with your hospital. There's nothing to us. I said I'd see you again. Rest assured. I'm not here today to fight with you, so invite you guys out. I have nothing to do with you. I don't report to the police. I'm sorry, but you're very involved. I've told you once, but I'll invite you back under my hood again. I have also answered very clearly that I refuse no matter how you beat or force me. I do not agree. It seems that you don't really know anything. Rubik's is not a high-profile organizer. This is the future organization that will become a member of the mainland faction. You still don't have the technique to fight, but you can't make up for that broken body. I will teach you little by little to make you submit it right away. Tone said crap and gave a shot. Anyway, your delivery job will be quite good. So don't worry. Wait for me. Why is the phone working at this time? Who is it? It was the captain of the second team. I'm busy speaking quickly. Gather the whole army and take orders directly from the leader. Of course, I will come. But there seems to be no gathering of the whole army so far. What the hell are the bad guys being ruined by a fake chicken? Even the leader has to come out. I have a feeling that you are Hui Yong. I know. And then I will continue to talk later. I came here today. I have something urgent. Tell me what you just said on the phone. Tell me exactly what you don't have to add salted fish sauce. Are you crazy? Don't say it. It's bad. So he gave him a slap in the face. What do you do? Rest assured. This is a hospital. You can't die. So they rushed in. But unfortunately they were punched by the snail car. Then he grabbed the other man's bodice and held the two of them high with both hands. You guys don't have any effect. So just lie there. And then the car slams their heads together. So those two guys were instantly lying on the ground. The other guy in the back was about to hit the snail car. And he put all his strength into hitting the back of the snail car. But the car is only talking about it. Just one sentence. Put your strength into your stomach. If even you faint, it will be a little annoying. So you will slap the sicker's stomach. But he didn't pay attention and gave him a slap in the face. I've already warned him. And then he punched him. Even one blow can be deadly. He was in pain. So he screamed bitterly. Don't scream anymore to be blind. But at this time, he was very. It hurts. And he thinks silently. If I get punched by this monster one more time, I might die. I'll ask you again what you guys said on the phone just now. This time I punched really. But he stopped me. I will say that he finally succumbed to the snail driver. The snail driver walked alone in the rain with an emotionless face. You love your liver again. What else did that guy say? Hu Yang was extremely surprised to see the snail driver here. Seacher thought to herself that it might be too late, even though he told her not to get involved in it. What is the situation? Thank you for your intention to help me. But who are you? A guy with a fierce stick rushing at you is on that guy's side? After knowing, he asked. Zechariah used his fist to teach the other man a lesson. Just one blow had already distorted his face. Zechariah was extremely strong, so it was only natural to kill these guys. Only the body alone that the snail could take down a lot of people. No matter what you say, I won't just stand by and watch. You're okay. Still full of energy. The two leaned against each other and joined forces to win together. The EU dared to take the umbrella from that guy and ask him to do something. So you can go in and beat him. Suddenly, that big guy came out of nowhere and didn't know how to die. Huyen was trying to beat them. There is a support behind it. So it is better to fight with your forehand than to end this case quickly. As soon as she called him, Hu Yang said that I am not your brother. The number of these guys has decreased significantly, and I can deal with the rest. Or do you worry about something else? The guy who holds the umbrella and kills the cigarette over there makes my eyes itch so much. Let me worry. And then Hu Yang ran straight in front of Yugen. Look at you so relaxed while your juniors are struggling out there. You are holding an umbrella in one hand and smoking in the other. It looks a little uncomfortable. So put down the umbrella and cigarette. You have to make a fight. Don't you laugh? You're right. I'm not a friendly leader. I don't do anything. But I still have the most money in battles. So I just stand by and give orders. But just one sentence of mine will make those guys die. Of course. Because I'm much stronger than those guys alone. Is your family jealous? Your brother said the same thing. You know the result. It's annoying to mention it. You think it's okay to just deal with me now, right? But you can just beat those Lola. And you think it's a bit wrong to eat me? Why don't you take off that damn mask and fight a fight? I want to see your face too. So Huyen also took off all the chicken masks. And his whole body was light. So I couldn't see the front until now. So I felt a little frustrated. Before I hit you, I want to ask you one thing. Who are you? You really make me quite confused. What is the reason for you doing this? She asked me why my name is Hu Yong, and the reason is that if you beat me, I'll let you know. So I'll probably know in a minute. Maybe you won't know it for the rest of your life. It was already raining at this time. And the two of them were challenging again. The two were confronting each other. Hu Yong punched Yugon once in the right cheek. Yugon also responded. No one will succumb to anyone. Hu Yong felt that this guy was also very friendly. Both of them had a very high level of defense. And Yugon thought to himself that he was punched by it. Hu Yong was now provoking his anger. As expected, Yugon shouted loudly and caught him. The head rushed in and hit him. Yugon was like a childless child. Huyen found that this guy was also quite strong and not easy to deal with. Yugen shouted at me and rushed to hit Huyen. But he was still nothing. Huyen punched him hard so that he would wake up. It's okay. Do you need to take a break in the middle of the half? I'll wait for you not to be arrogant. His blood was flowing more and more to the ground. Why didn't Wang Truck tell you the truth? Your performance is not much different from your sister. Or you kneel down and beg for forgiveness and let's stop here. I admit that you are very strong. You just fought those guys once. And now you are overpowering me. Which is amazing. You don't admit it. You want to admit defeat, right? Don't be so quick to agree. It's just a compliment. It doesn't mean you're stronger than me. Wait and see. From now on, I will also help with my best. Hu Yang said with contempt. Is it really worth looking forward to? You just talked. So to try it. Yugen he rushed in again to give Huyong a fight. He was indeed very strong. The kick was as fast as the wind that made Huyong almost not dodge in time. It was so fast that I couldn't see his kick. What kind of expression did I just start up a little? Above or below? I don't know which point he was going to aim at. His kick must be said to be very fast. It has not yet arrived. His legs were even stronger than kicks, so he had to be careful. But compared to his fists, it would be more difficult to strike with his feet. He also had to fix one foot firmly on the ground for the kick to be strong. However, his continuous kicks had damage that could not be joked. Chow is more inclined to use his legs when fighting. It's okay. But do you need to take a break in the middle of the half? That's my sentence. My nose is bleeding. You idiot. It's been a long time since I've been bleeding. At first glance, it seems that he is not a numb, a strange man or a blind man, who knows you can just hit and guess. You think it's easy to do that. You've been teasing me a little too much just now. I just want to say thank you arigato in Japanese. Suddenly, a voice said to me, and it turned out that the snail driver had treated them beautifully. He's had enough. The bad guys have to bear it. I've been too focused on increasing the number of troops without paying attention to the quality. I didn't think they were so useless. Why can you rush in here? Even though they fought twice with a slight disadvantage. They were already tired. I can win. Tell Hu Yang to come in and replace the law for me. What do you change for me? Don't believe me. I'm afraid you'll get tired. Hearing those words, Yugon felt extremely troubled. It's okay that I can still fight. You guys talk too freely. Yugen rushed in to attack Huyen. The Yugen was extremely pleased when he hit his dangerous spot. So Huyen fell right to the ground. I guess I have to change shifts. Change something. And you have. If you go away, you will also share the same fate as your brother. Hu Yong was in a lot of pain. Yugon turned pale. How could he stand up? I've already judged his abilities and don't need to change shifts. But I admit that your eyebrows hurt me. You're too stubborn. But that's it. Yugon was about to take down Hu Yong again. But Hu Yong had a strategy for himself at this time. So he couldn't expect it. Yugon's chest was punched by Hu Yong in pain. I've already grasped your strength. Both of them were tired. But they both fought hard. And Hu Yong also dodged his blows. The EU dared to hit with his feet. Because that's his advantage. But no. Hu Yong was tired of the blow with his chest. His feet couldn't defeat Hu Yong. And in the end, he had to hug his chest and be knocked down. Hu Yong and Suksh stood there watching him in pain. The snail thought to himself, through a few fights, he had grasped all the habits and fighting styles of the opponent and was counterattacking very quickly. It seemed that he was usually worried. The EU couldn't have imagined it. So the more he hit him, the harder he got, the more he would lose. If you want to become a member of the mainland course, you must win this match. This is what I have dreamed of for a long time. Wait, whether I have to win. As long as they don't get in my way, it's okay. If you want to take a break, don't listen to me. It's not a disadvantage for you. You're really strong. I fought a lot of fights, but this is the one that makes me have the most difficulty. That's right. However, in reality, you're just a power delivery guy. Blue Bridge will soon join the Continental faction. Can be said that we will receive the best support. If you lose to me, it goes without saying. But even if you win, you will become an enemy of the mainland faction. I don't know who you received the order from, but do you think you can fight the mainland faction? From the moment you decided to confront us, you had no way out. However, I will show you a way to live. Path with 4 brilliant words. Listen, no matter who is standing behind you, please stop here. I have the mainland sect to back me, so you don't either. Fear of reprisals. I'll give you the second biggest position in Blue Breeze. If the two of us work together, the promotion in the mainland world will be huge. It's good to just become the supreme force of the leading organization. Okay, I thought you were just evil, but it turned out to be both thick and evil. His spirit collapsed, and he was not confident that he could win with strength. So he turned to negotiations. Don't be sloppy anymore. Use your fists to go. Do you want to collect under the barrier? Tang, I already said. You want me to win without getting in the way. Did I show you the way of life that you still want to stab your head to death? There is no way to live. But if I am stronger, why should I be a junior? I don't have any other path. No matter what, I had to rush in and kill him. The EU has the courage to tell itself. You're determined to do it. But you don't have to be determined to get stronger. I'm about to reach my destination. How can I be destroyed because of him? Come on, just lie there. No matter how much you have, the result will be the same. Your attack is too predictable. It is really strong. But if you can see through it, you will know the result immediately. Shut up and keep fighting. You said you're going to take down my board. If you are unjust, you probably can't hit you properly. If you feel unjust, go back to practice more. And I will fight you anytime you want. How can it be impossible to practice more? An organization that is shaken just because of a chicken. Is it worth recommending to the EU president? Today, right here, you have to die. The EU is all attached. You just proposed to cooperate. But now it's so fast. How easy can I guess to see if you can hit this? Then he pulled out his gun, which made Huyen extremely surprised by the Korean gun. Turns out that the gun is too lucky for you. But in your life, your son, Huyen has dodged his gun. No, he had already come this far. Just a little more. But who would have expected him to be beaten to pieces? No, I don't move anymore. But I'm really curious what the reason for you doing this is. If it weren't for you, I'd have reached the peak of fame. And in the end, who is wrong to make you have no one? It's just that my eyes are itchy. That's it. Believe it or not. But take your disciples out of here so that I can see you again. It's not just one place. It's okay. It's a little expensive. But I was lucky that it rained. And why did you suddenly rush out there? If it's a real gun, what should I do? Is it a real gun? The two looked at each other and walked away together, leaving him alone under the rain soaked in diapers. Let's get to the movie. Tony hopes to receive more likes and shares to be motivated to make more special sets.